Kathy, if you'd take roll call, please.
Councilmember Zerfing?
Here.
Councilmember Masters?
Yes.
Councilmember Cranbrook?
Here.
Councilmember Benson?
Here.
Councilmember Pruitt?
Here.
Councilmember Haight?
Here.
Mayor Fisher?
Here. Next, amendments to the agenda. Everyone, items 8 and 9 will be switched. 9 will come before 8 tonight, just so everyone knows. So, public hearings, we have none. Presentation, we have Sean Anderson here from the Cascade Locks Health Media Club project. Sean, would you like to go ahead with your presentation, please?
Thank you for having us come today. My name is Sean Anderson. I work for the Commission on Children and Families. I'm the Tobacco Prevention Coordinator. What I'm here today for is I co-facilitate your local Cascade Locks Middle School Health Media Club, and we wanted to share a video that they have made. We do drug and alcohol prevention and do social marketing within the club after school. So I want to introduce some of the young students in the club and then play a little video for you.
I'm AJ Laws and I'm in 8th grade.
My name is Nathan and I'm in 6th grade.
My name is Ashley and I'm in 6th grade. My name is Danielle and I'm in 6th grade.
And I'm going to come through here.
That's
I have to push play on this video.
You want the lights off?
working with us. On June 24th, they're going to be doing movies in the park, and that event itself will be a tobacco-free event, and we created the sandwich board to let everyone know there will be no smoking. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you guys very much. So I think we'll let you guys do your thing. All right.
Very good, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good video.
Okay, next we will go to comments by the general public on any item of interest that is not going to be discussed on the agenda, committee reports or government officials. We will now open the floor to comment.
Excuse
Oh.
me, were you going to Parks and Rec speak? Or do you have me on the agenda for later on?
During the same time.
What?
It's during the same time slot.
Oh, is it? Okay. Go ahead then.
So are you gonna, no, just, you were gonna read something first.
Oh, I'll finish the comment and then you can do Parks and Rec. Anyway, after Parks and Rec, we'll open the floor to public comment. All people will address the council as a whole. You will do so with respect to everyone on the council. When you come to the podium, you will first state your name and the reason why you're speaking to the council. If you are here with a group of people representing the same issue, please pick one person to represent that group. You will be given 5 minutes to speak. Each person at the end of after each person has spoken, that will be the end of public comment and it will be closed. Then the council will speak on any matter left. There will be no interruptions for the public when the council is discussing a matter. If you agree with what someone has said, please do not applaud. Please raise your hand and approve, and that you approve with what that person said. Okay, at this time, we will now ask for Parks and Rec to speak. Thank you.
I'm always eager to talk about Parks and Recreation. I'm Karen Peck, and I've been on Park Recreation Committee for several years, and the summer recreation driver since about 80, I guess, 1980. And I'm not driving a bus now, so I tried to come up with a program that would work for us this year as a trial. And I believe that I need to get permission from the council to do it this way. Always before, I knew I had a budget and I could do what we needed to do or wanted to do. But because I'm asking this year to have a bus and driver come in to do 4 events for us only, I would need to have the money come to pay that person instead of paying me. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but do you see what I'm saying? Instead of paying me to do this package program, it needs to be broken in 2, half for me and half to pay for the bus and the driver. And all we have to do is put in a bus request to the school district, and then we'll pay them at the end of the 4 weeks, which will be for 4 trips. And the way our budget looks now, we would have that money available if the budget goes through as it's been presented. So do you have any questions about that?
What 4 events do you have planned?
Well, we're going to go swimming in Hood River once, swimming in Stevenson once, a movie in Hood River, and bowling in Hood River. And then I would have events here every Wednesday afternoon, tie-dyeing and beading and art. We're going to do some painting and different things. I'll also be doing things for the senior citizens like I've done in the past. We'll go to dinner on Wednesday nights, we'll carpool, and I'm having the seniors also to my place for a barbecue on the 4th like I've been doing. So most of that is the same, it's just breaking down how we're going to be able to use a bus this year. Any other questions? Okay, so when will I know if this is going to work out this year?
Just contact me.
Okay,
Just stop by, we'll talk about it.
Okay, when the budget's decided, then I'll know.
Yes,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you very much.
Okay, now the floor will be open to public comment.
My name's Mark Keller. It's my pleasure to speak briefly to the council here. I am with KG Hospitality Services, and I'm with a professional hotel, motel, resort management and development company out of Portland. But my parents-in-law live here in Cascade Locks, and I love Cascade Locks. I just looked down on it from the most beautiful view on top of Table Mountain that I've ever seen it on Saturday. And I make it here very, very often. It's my favorite place to recreate, so it's an honor to speak to you. Brief background on us, I've been involved in the development, in addition to management of hotels, the development of over $300 million of current resorts, hotels in both Washington and Oregon. And even consulted, this is separate from that, but consulted briefly on the opening of Bonneville Hot Springs because the original owners didn't really kind of know how to get that open when that was happening. So I'm very familiar with the Gorge and hospitality in general. I just have understood, and my primary purpose here is just to clear up any confusion there might be as an expert on House Bill 2267, which is the local transient lodging tax bill that the state legislature passed in 2003. And it's my understanding there may be some confusion about that, and I can clear that up very easily. A lot of code is very dense and difficult to read and understand. This one is actually unambiguous and pretty straightforward, and I'm available for any questions after or whatever on it. Basically, the hotel and restaurant lodging associations wanted to keep from a continual expansion of lodging rates, including some very high ones in the high teens in Eugene and other places. And they wanted to make sure that local governments didn't keep adding on taxes just to pay for general services. That was one of the primary things behind this House bill. But it unambiguously says that after 2003, what local governments cannot do is lower the percentage of existing tax rates that are paid out towards tourism and travel-related things. They cannot lower it. Okay. Any new additional increases, so if Cascade Locks, when you last changed this, it was 1993, I believe, from 5% to 7%. If you were to change it from 7% to 8%, that additional 1%, you would, and every additional tax after that, you would have to take 70% of that additional amount and apply it towards tourism. But for all taxes that were in place up until July 1st of 2003, and they vary tremendously. Some have 80% to tourism, some have 0% to tourism. Portland, for example, out of the 17 million in 2007, had 83% to the general fund and 17% to tourism. Manzanita and Garibaldi, which are kind of like Cascade Locks because they don't have a huge tax base, they have to put a lot of that money into general services. And I would point out that in Cascade Locks, you're around 1,200 people, I guess, right now. When you have every one of your 6 hospitality lodgings full with, say, 2 people per side or 2 people per room, you effectively increase the size of Cascade Locks by about 50% in terms of what you need for general services, which is a much more onerous demand on general services than a large city. When Portland's full, it increases by a couple percent. So it's a much more onerous thing for a locality to have to pay for the general services for having effectively a much larger population without a tax base to support it. And finally, without getting into all the politics of how you do your budget, as a developer, I was just immensely excited when I saw the port list the acreage out there past Bear Mountain, potentially for a resort. And if this had been better economic times, there would have been potentially quite a number of people lined up to do that, because it's just a spectacular place for a resort that would result in tremendous jobs and would actually increase the occupancy in the other lodgings in the area, because when you have a resort like that, it makes people think of you. Think of Skamania Lodge and what that does. Think of Bonneville Hot Springs. I mean, it makes people think of you. It makes people drive here. Instead of driving from 84 over the bridge, they drive this way to some degree. And I can tell you that without we wouldn't be able to get the kind of insurance we would need to make a go of it. Our insurance rates would go up dramatically. And it would be the difference between a go and no-go for most of the people that I advise when they're developing resorts, hotels, and motels. So with that, I'm available possibly for Mr. Carson if he needs any clarification on the House Bill 2267 or that code, because that's just something that's unambiguous, it's straightforward, it's black letter law. And on the others, I hope that even in this age of terrible budget constraints and understanding that, I hope that the city stays together and finds a way not to deconstruct the city just to stay alive. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your attention.
Jeff Helfrich, Cascade Locks. I'm here to ask clarification. I was watching the budget committee, maybe last budget committee meeting, and a budget committee member had stated, I believe, I need some clarification from council, I guess is more the question, that certain things from mutual aid compacts may not be jeopardized. However, I have a letter here from Jim Treadwell, Hood River County Fire Department, Hood River County Fire Defense Board Chief. It was received by the city on May 27, 2011, to Mr. Carson, the interim city administrator, that goes against what the budget committee member had said. So I'd ask for clarification, ask this letter to be read into the record. Thank you.
Mayor, would you like me to read it?
Go ahead.
Mr. Carson, as the Hood River County Fire Defense Chief, it is my responsibility as directed from the State Fire Marshal's Office to maintain continuity with the county's fire services. I have read with interest an article in a recent Hood River News publication purporting to indicate a change in management of the fire services in Cascade Locks. I understand the management and fiduciary responsibilities of your city lie entirely with you, and my responsibilities as the County Fire Defense Chief have no bearing on these decisions. I do feel it is my responsibility that I inform you if drastic changes are made in the management of your fire and emergency response services affecting incident command system, qualified scene managers, and firefighters, our mutual aid compacts may be jeopardized. Mutual aid compacts are based on reciprocity, giving and receiving aid of qualified fire managers and firefighters. If changes in the management or operation of the Cascade Locks Fire Services impact these required mandates, it would be my responsibility to bring this matter before the County Fire Defense Board and suggest affirmative action to be taken to ensure fire and emergency scene safety to all responders. If I can be of any assistance to you or the City of Cascade Locks, please don't hesitate to contact me. Sincerely, Jim Trammell, Hood River County Fire Defense Board Chief.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to address the council? Oh, somebody's,
Go ahead, go ahead.
Ladies first. Wow.
Arm wrestle?
You win.
Hi, my name is Lori Madrigal, and I've been a native Oregonian all my life. My husband and I bought property about 16 years ago in a very vulnerable spot that runs adjacent with the runway of the airport, which I don't want to call it the runway. And we were here in 2003 when there was a wildfire, and it was very, very devastating. My husband was here. There was no cell phones at that time that we owned. I couldn't get a hold of him. And he was back out clearing out some debris and trying to maintain our property. And we had great volunteer fire service at that time, but there wasn't enough of them. And that wasn't, I'm not trying to say they weren't organized, but we had the Forest Service that basically helped save the town. And my input is that we need a fire chief, first of all, that can promote and help sustain our business here, a business that we can draw people into and lure people into. and manage the community. When we have professional personnel like the city manager and the mayor and all the city council, we also need the same as our safety and our emergency people that can help us in case of an emergency. And I just really urge for what we want to bring people in, new businesses in. We really need to have that part of our community, because I think, like all of us, you know, just walking by the KOA, and I'm a walker. You know, I do 24/7. I mean, I'm there every day. And summer, there's a lot of tourists. There's a lot of campfires, and a lot of, I guess, unregulated fires. And all of a sudden, something like that blows up. Who's going to be responsible for that if we don't have someone close at hand that can save the homes around there, all the way down Forest Lane, up into the hills? So I just urge you to really consider and to acknowledge our fire chief and the volunteers. And it's good for all of us for so many different aspects. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Gail Lewis. I'm a resident here. Probably say a lot, but a lot of people have said a lot. And in spite of what's been said in support of the fire and ambulance, the council and the budget committee appears to still have hacked the financing, especially for the fire chief. And I understand the issues with finance, but I also understand whether you can be vindictive or whether you can be creative. And it's just hard for me to believe, although I haven't studied all the figures like many of you have, that there isn't some way to find enough money to retain the current salary of the fire chief to protect the community to the level that's not only expected but absolutely needed. And from what I understand was being done in the budget, and we can't talk to budget committee, that's been slashed pretty heavily. Where if it was my salary, I couldn't live on that cut. And I would ask if it can be revisited in budget or by council, that be creative for 1 year and give the community the opportunity to find a way to subsidize the fire and ambulance through some kind of ballot measure, whether it be bond or levy, whatever. I just feel that with the right combination, there would be support for funding to help subsidize the needed compensation and help nullify the gap. I'm prepared to put $500 of my own money into some kind of a fund to help promote that if we had the time to do it. At the same time, I'm just as willing to put $500 into a recall motion for those that voted to have those cuts made.
My name's Sarah Knight, and I'm a citizen here at Cascade Locks, and I love the democratic process. But I want to remind everybody that democracy is not a one-time vote. It's an ongoing process, and I'm beginning to feel more and more that important decisions that are being made on behalf of the citizens aren't involving the citizens. The TRT tax, the dismantling of the fire department, and now the reduction or the increase to employees to pay their medical insurance. I really feel like there should be staff reports and factual information, and I keep hearing numbers of the fire department. I'd like real, honest-to-God figures and numbers and how these financial impacts impact the city and how they'll impact services, so that decisions that are being made on my behalf are informed. So I would just like to encourage that the democratic process be done in the best and utmost transparent kind of way. Thank you.
Thank you.
There will be hearings.
Next.
There will be hearings.
Who would like to speak next?
My name is Steve Morris. I've been a resident of Cascade Locks for about 15 years. And I'm speaking on behalf of my wife, my mother-in-law, and myself, which we both have 2 residences here. The need for adequate and competent fire and rescue services is so crucial that, for instance, in 2006, I had a heart attack, and I had 2 stents put in after that. But if it weren't for immediate response to me at that time, it took within 15 minutes to get me some help, I would not have made it. It's just that crucial to have not only adequate but competent people. Without the competent people involved, then it took at least 3 shots of nitro to keep me going until they could get me to some help. So that's one thing. Also, the fire issue is extremely important. My mother-in-law lives right next to the field, which is the airport. Severe fire hazard there constantly. So it is 80 years old. She's semi-invalid. It's hard to get around. But she's very vocal in the community for needs of that nature, which not only apply to her, but to everyone involved. So any of us that have issues of that nature, like my wife is asthmatic and severe allergies, has had to have people come, the fire and rescue come to our home. And I have had for myself as well because of issues. We're not alone. So that is crucial reasons to at least maintain the level that we have, which has been proven to be superior in nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Martha Lamont, Cascade Locks. First of all, I'd like to say that yesterday, while we were all enjoying a wonderful Sunday, some of our volunteers were out in White with a 7-hour recovery mission. Some of us provided food for them. I believe there used to be a budget for that, but if there isn't, we'll pick it up somehow. Seems important to feed them when they're out there working, but it's up to you guys. I have a letter from an insurance agency, which I think will be of interest to the community, from Judith Lance Insurance Agency to City Council of Cascade Locks, Oregon. It has come to my attention that you are considering some changes to your local fire department. I wanted to inform you of the importance of the fire rating of your community in the cost of a homeowner's policy. The average homeowner's policy annual premium is based largely on the fire protection class of your fire department. Your current fire rating is protection class 505. The ISO sets your rating based on 100 different factors at that fire department. Some factors include water pressure, number of hydrants, number of full-time firefighters, time it takes to respond to a fire, and a home's distance to the fire station. These factors act to predict the performance of the fire department's response to a call for help. If the fire department gets assigned a new rating by the Fire Rating Bureau, expect a $125 jump in the typical homeowner's policy for every protection class number change. For example, you're a PPC 05 right now. If you become a 100% volunteer fire department, if we even have that, you'll be reassessed by the Fire Rating Bureau to a minimum of PPC 08. That will increase the average homeowner's policy by $375 per year. Worst case scenario is to be rated 9 or 10. unprotected area in which many homeowners will lose coverage by companies or pay for special policies designed for high fire risk areas due to lack of fire department coverage. As a specialist in homeowners insurance, I encourage you to be thoughtful of the adverse effects on the homeowner of any city policy change that could potentially increase the fire rating for your beautiful community. If you have any questions about this rating process, please feel free to contact me. Warmest wishes, Judith Lance, President, Judith Lance Insurance Agency, Inc. She's in Stevenson. My husband and I are in the process of having the lots behind us cleared at our expense on Windsong because the owner is going to foreclosure, and the city's certainly not going to pay for it, I don't believe. But if you have $300 or $400, let me know.
Deborah?
I was just reading.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I agree too.
Oh.
Shauna Hasel, Cascade Locks resident. I have got a letter here from numerous members of the committee I'd like to read since we are somewhat covering the fire department and fire EMS. Keep our chief. Cascade Locks is fortunate to have both a locally and recognized fire chief, very experienced in disaster response. He's had a positive impact on the morale of the volunteers, improved their training, purchased updated equipment to improve their safety in emergency situations. Chief Pritchard has brought in over $1 million in grants, i.e. he's writing grants, by bringing in new equipment from various sources, including the only mass casualty equipment in the Gorge area. He's the main go-to trail rescue person in the Mid-Columbia Gorge, i.e. 6 to 8 hours last night on the trail. He's also trained in helicopter response. The potential consequences of eliminating this position are the loss of many volunteers, loss of fire inspection services, loss of a mutual aid agreement, though I was told that was not true, which we have now determined it's true, loss of excellent ISO rating, which will create a significant rate increase to homeowners, businesses, and to our very own city's insurance rates. This leaves our citizens and businesses vulnerable to medical and fire emergencies in a town with many elderly buildings and people, citizens. Ultimately, this may leave our city open to potential lawsuits, and it would be a sad shame to leave I-84 without coverage in the heart of the gorge. The lack of respect displayed by numerous council members has caused poor communication between the fire department and in terms of expectations. Volunteers are left wondering why they have a leader that they respect, and that leader can't get the respect from the city council. Or why council members haven't even set foot in the new fire station and looked upon it with pride, as it is a city asset. We respectfully also ask the council to forego the 70-30 split and to look to less important sources of funding to cut, such as flowers, advertising, recreation. They have a lower priority than public safety. Please fully fund our #1 priority, our emergency services department. We ask you to listen to us. Please fully fund Cascade Locks' paid fire chief position and do not alter the funds to the emergency services department. I have over 110 names of community members listed here that support these statements. On a personal note, I too will contribute $500 to any recall process that moves forward to remove the council members that seek to make irresponsible and unwise choices as to our public safety.
Barry Lamont, Cascade Locks. I just want to say that I too will support this $500 to remove any council members that voted against the fire department.
Rob Rostoff, Cascade Locks. I just did a quick multiplication of the 435 dwellings that we have here in Cascade Locks, times the potential amount that was mentioned, $375. You're looking at $163,000 plus just for the dwellings in Cascade Locks. That doesn't include public buildings, and that doesn't include businesses, which would skyrocket, particularly for motels. And what you're talking about savings is I think you were talking about, what, $50,000 or something? It seems to me that's pound wise and penny foolish at best. And in addition, I just heard that $2,000 was spent on gas by CGRA, which I think is wonderful, with the exception that I also heard that another $3,000 was given to them by the Tourism Committee for a total of $11,000 now. In a time when we're having problems with our budget, I do not understand how we can hand over $3,000, which apparently was spent for gas. Now, you've just heard how many? 2, 3 people volunteered to put up $500. And I'm going to do the same.
Would anyone else care to address the council?
I would.
Okay.
I'm actually not familiar with a lot of people that are in front of me today, but my name is Tom Young. I graduated from Cascade Locks High School in 2003. My grandparents are Ralph and Pat Hesgard. Dad, how long ago was that we had that fire in our house?
94.
94, so I was a kid. Luckily, we didn't have to call the fire department because me and my dad handled it pretty well, but the house that I grew up in, the house that my son gets to visit his granddad and grandma, you know, I really can't understand how we wouldn't be able to maintain a safe community without a fire chief. If we had needed somebody there with immediate response, we wouldn't have that house. We would have to move somewhere else. There was also a summer that I came up here when I moved to Florence. I was up here doing some fishing. There was some kids. A lot of you guys know where it's at. When you go down Frontage Road, just before you get on the freeway, you would take a left and you can kind of fish that little cove just outside of Government Island. There was a big fire out there. And luckily, I had a fire extinguisher in my truck because I drove it on the sand and all that, and it was actually a requirement. I took my fire extinguisher and I made a perimeter around it. The fire didn't spread, but if there was somebody that I needed to call and they simply weren't there, the same thing would have happened. We would have had a fire sweeping through this entire town with nobody here to help us. So just do what you guys have to do and make a wise decision and help us and help yourselves. Thank you.
Would anyone else care to address the council? Seeing none, we will move on to discussion, declaration of potential conflicts of interest. Seeing that there is none, we will move on to consent agenda. Consent agenda may be approved in its entirety in a single motion. Items are considered to be routine. Any counselor may make a motion to remove any item from the consent agenda for individual discussion. Item A, approval of minutes of the May 23rd, 2011 council meeting. B is the ratification of bills in the amount of $188,900.50. $181,586.26. C, the appointment of Greg Hauser to the Parks and Recreation Committee and Jesse Hartley to the Tourism Committee. Open to discussion? Yes.
I'd like to remove B, ratification of the bills. Okay. Discussion, please. And I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of May 23, 2011, and appointment of Greg Howard to the Parks and Recreation Committee and Jesse Hartley to the Tourism Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to remove the ratification of bills in the amount of $181,586.26 and to approve the minutes of May 23rd, 2011 council meeting. And C, the appointment of Greg Hauser to the Parks and Recreation Committee and Jesse Hartley to the Tourism Committee. Any discussion? Tiffany?
Do we require any background checks for these people that we appoint for, like, Parks and Rec? Is that something we require? Do you know, Kathy?
Not that I know.
Is it something that we should consider in the future? I would think.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Opposed.
So Tiffany was opposed and Lance was opposed? Motion passes. Next, we will move on to,
We have the bills.
pardon?
We have the bills.
To the ratification of the bills?
She pulled it.
I have a question.
Tiffany?
I'm curious, in here, there's a couple questions I have. We have bills that total, $6,324.70 for a department that has zero fund balance, and I'm wondering how, that would specifically be the emergency services, how we pay bills when we have no money. How does that happen?
Well, I tell you, one thing that I recently found out was that there's, I think it's a resolution that prohibits the expenses from, it says a fund that's in deficit, and I'm still looking into that to figure out if that's the overall city fund or if it's any individual fund. But there's exemptions in that law, basically, that says that a department head who has an authority to spend up to $1,000 is exempt from that requirement.
Okay, but still, my question is, how do we keep paying these bills when there's no money there to pay the bills with? That's, I mean...
There is money in the overall city budget in the accounts. You know, we're talking about money that was not budgeted, or was budgeted that isn't there, but there is money in the overall city account.
So we're continuing to add to the deficit of that fund?
Yeah, as it turns out, the deficit's grown from around, at the beginning of the year, from 32,000 to, by the end of the fiscal year, 45,000. Which is a situation that I'm still dealing with in terms of how bills get paid.
And then my other question is, we have refunds in here. Refunds are not reflected in our budget. How do we know if there's money for those, and how much money do we have for those?
You're talking about utility refunds?
Yes.
I don't know, to tell you the truth. I can get you an answer.
I'm done.
Don?
I don't know if anyone here knows, but I noticed we had a bill on engine 95. I was not aware we had an engine 95. When did we get it and how did we get it?
Don't know.
I didn't know we had one. And
Okay.
Since I've been on council, I haven't approved acquiring and getting an engine number 5. And also, I notice we have almost $1,000 charged against the Durango, and I understand it's in the shop again, and this is the 3rd time they've changed the engine. I'd like to know what's going on with the engines.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Yes, Tiffany.
Is Mary Ann in there?
Mhm.
Because I'm wondering what this SteriSafe is, because it says it's building maintenance, but to me it sounds like it might be medical supplies. I'm not sure.
What is it again?
SteriSafe. It's the
SteriSafe.
1195 down.
I don't know if she's still here, but she's
Okay.
not, okay, she's not.
I'm sorry,
I'll
I
have to
should,
find out. I don't know what it is.
yeah, I'll have to call her. Okay.
Lance, you have a question?
The question about utility bills was asked during a budget committee meeting not too long ago, and the answer was that the money that comes in, paid as a deposit, is held in a separate column in the budget where it's never expended, because it's a, I believe the term was it's a liability. The city still owes that money back when it's time to refund the deposit.
Okay.
So that issue actually did come out, and it's accounted for. I don't remember the term that Mary Ann used, but it is accounted for, so it's like a liability schedule or something like that.
All right. Well, yeah, that's what I would assume, but I didn't know for sure, so.
I think it may have been the only one that budget committee meeting that you weren't at.
Okay.
To your knowledge, have we been purchasing new fire engines since you've been here? No, I don't believe we have either. I believe there's been one vehicle donated. I'm not sure if that's the engine 95 that Don's talking about or not, but
I'll find out.
I know we haven't purchased new fire engine. Thank you.
Eva?
I can't remember exactly when Engine 95 came in, but it has been here for a while and it was donated. So it's been there since prior to January. So it was there. And then when I looked at some of these things, I know that I thought I saw some emails go back and forth about, because I see the propane tank removal, moving the propane tank. Was I right in the fact that there was something that came down that we had to? Was there something about propane tanks? I don't know.
Well, there were several issues about kind of propane tank inspections, whether it was the city or the state fire marshal's office and that kind of thing. As it turned out, we involved the state anyway, so, you know, the fire marshal for the city and the fire marshal for the state were able to get together and work through it.
But did they say that they had to move this propane tank?
Well, I think there was more than one. I mean, there was, the one we're talking about was next door. No?
She's talking about the fire.
Oh, okay,
Because it's
yeah.
showing here moving propane tank, so I was wondering if that was something that we had to do.
I don't know. I guess
Maybe.
it looks like yes.
Maybe Jeff can answer the
Yeah.
question.
Jeff, you want to answer it?
I'd love to. Yes, we did have some of that propane tank.
And can you answer the question about what the SteriSafe is? Do you?
I'm pretty sure it says SteriCycle. Maybe the name of the company is
Yeah,
SteriSafe, but SteriCycle, they take
Yes.
care of all our bloodborne pathogens for the fire department. So it's a big collection bin for the station. It's not specific to ambulance, it's for everything.
So that's a building maintenance cost?
Yeah, it'd just be like trash.
Thanks.
Oh, and then here's a question about Engine 95.
Yeah.
We received Engine 95, it was either the fall of 2009 or January of 2010. I actually went out on several fires last year, so we've had it for quite some time.
So the bills are for repairs?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay,
there was
thanks.
2 engines that needed to be repaired. Engine 93, which was our primary engine until we got our new engine, it wouldn't start. So we had to get somebody out here.
Sorry.
But we were using
Yeah, that's
the
a good
train,
engine.
and all of a sudden we turned it back on and it wouldn't come back on. The starter motor was going and something blew, so we couldn't move it for a couple days until we got somebody out.
Right.
The other vehicle, I think it just needed to have oil change and had a leak in the transmission, so we got that fixed.
Okay, good, thank you.
Lance?
Well, I just wondered if you guys were gonna talk. Don had asked a question about the command vehicle. And like, 3 engine repairs.
Yeah, they've got 3 of the engines, the warranty engines or something that failed.
I think it's just 2 engines. One of them, the reason you saw that $1,000 bill is when the first engine went back to the vendor who makes the engine, they tried to blame it on the company that installed the engine. And in turn, they blamed it on us, saying that our injectors were clogged, which they weren't. So in order to remedy the situation, when they sent the new engine, we had to put new injectors in. And at the same time we were doing that, the drive shaft went out on the vehicle, so we had to replace that. Sorry, the drive line. I'm not an auto guy. But when you're driving down the road, it was making all sorts of noises, so I needed to get fixed. So that's what that was.
And so they're putting the second one in there, not the third.
Yes, the second one. And I don't, they're trying to figure out like why that happened, but basically it threw a rod again. So we're not really sure what happened.
Thank you.
Ask one question. I know a little bit about the command rig, but can you tell me, just so everybody kind of knows what the command rig has on it and the importance of having it? Because I think some questions come up about, whether it's necessary. And what could we do without it?
Sure. The command vehicle serves a number of purposes. First, for the full-time person that needs to operate that vehicle, it gets them from point A to point B. There's a lot of meetings that have to be attended to when we're maintaining our agreements and friendships with other agencies. We need to drive across the river, we need to go to Hood River, we need to go to Corbett, sometimes Portland. And it's cheaper for us to use that vehicle instead of use a brush engine or a fire engine, which guzzles gas at $10 was it like 10 gallons a mile kind of a thing. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but for me to use the brush rig compared to the command vehicle, it's a huge difference. I think the green one, I can't remember how many we get, but anyways, that's insignificant. If I were to use my personal vehicle, then the city would have to pay mileage for that at 51 cents a mile. So the cost to the community and to the department would be significantly increased if somebody were to use their personal vehicle. So it's cheaper and simpler for somebody or for the chief to use that vehicle. Now, in terms of equipment and other things that it does, the chief's primary job is to show up first on any emergency scene, whether it be a motor vehicle crash on the freeway, whether it be a fire. Their job is to get there and lay the foundation and the groundwork for all the responding engines and companies that come in. So in that vehicle, there's extra breathing apparatus, there's water, fire investigation equipment, we have command boards, have an AED, or we used to have an AED. We have a lot of communication equipment, especially now with the grant equipment that we received through the communications grant. There's chainsaw stuff in there, medical kit, lockout, tagout kit. There's a ton of equipment. And all of that is geared towards first response. Traffic cones for doing traffic control in the freeway, extra safety vests.
Tiffany?
Do you have any new equipment down there? I've had a report that there might be a motorcycle or, yeah, I mean, has there somebody been parking equipment down there that might not be part of the department but be on property? And
People park their vehicles down there all the time, volunteers and stuff do, yes.
Inside?
And from time to time, we have allowed volunteers to park vehicles there if they need to for whatever reason.
Okay.
Inside? I'm sorry, inside the parking area?
If there's a specific reason for it, yes, I have okayed that for volunteers in the past, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Is there any further discussion? I'd entertain a motion. I guess there's no motion.
I have a question.
Oh,
So, are we placing ourselves in liability by approving funds being expended improperly or contrary to city and state statute?
I don't think it's contrary to city requirements. Like I said, there is a resolution, but it also authorizes any department head to expend up to $1,000 per occurrence, despite what it says about needing to have a surplus. But I am still looking into it, because I just found out about that resolution. I got to figure out how exactly it's supposed to work and what the legislative intent was, but I will get you an answer.
So you're not certain whether these are proper or not?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer it right now. I
You
can't.
haven't investigated each expenditure and determined that it is a proper expenditure?
I would like to.
Okay, well.
As soon as I get out of the next 3 days, the budget cycle, I will get an answer.
Lance?
I'll make a motion that we ratify the bills in the amount of $181,586.26.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to ratify the bills in the amount of $181,586.26. Discussion, Kevin?
No, I'm willing to ratify them, but not the ones coming out of the fund that has the $60,000 deficit.
Any further discussion?
I'll agree with the same as Kevin, I'll approve the rest, but I don't want to put my name on this until I know it's legal.
Okay, I believe I have to say the same. I have to agree that we need to know whether or not we're doing things legally. Tom?
Well, I'm okay with ratifying personally, because I think we need to pay our bills.
Right.
But I do believe we have some issues, and we need to work on those issues, because we can't keep doing this. But, I believe the city can't, again, we're gonna take from, as they all say, Peter to Paul type thing. And apparently we can do that. I don't, say it's the right thing to do, but, I think we need to pay our bills, that's where we're at. But I think we do need to take some hard looks at what's happening here.
Lance?
One of the reasons I made the motion is just something we heard, and that is that fire engine wouldn't start, and we needed to fix it. And I believe that for the safety of the community, we need to fix the fire engine, and that's one of these bills that a few people have said they didn't want to ratify. So I think that's a priority. I think it's been made clear by the people that have spoken at the meeting already that public safety is a priority, so that's one of the reasons why I made the motion.
Don?
I believe we have 3 fire trucks. 2 of them will start. Where do we stop?
Well, I believe that legally that if the truck has already been sent somewhere, that we have to pay the bill, that we are financially obligated to that and to complete that at this time. It's just the fact that it'd be really nice to know legally how you're supposed to address these things when you come into this situation. So, I guess Eva?
I wouldn't disagree with that, but what I say though is, I do fall back with what we're saying here, and that is that we need to pay our bills. So, if, the thing is, we have a responsibility to do that. Now, in the meantime, I don't think it's a bad idea for us to find out, so in case we need to do something different in the future, that we can do that, and we've got a clear line. But right now, here's where we are. And from what I'm seeing here, there are some things that there's no choices on. Propane tank, if we were told we gotta move it, then we had to move it, that's just for one thing. The phone, there's some other things there that we just don't really have a choice on.
Kevin?
We've already paid these bills. We're simply ratifying that they were proper expenditures, which according to our policy, they weren't. So it's not like we're not going to pay them, they've already been paid.
Don?
I see at least one bill here that the invoice is from January, and we're just now agreeing to pay it, so, you know, the invoice is dated January.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of ratifying the bills in the amount of $181,586.26, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Motion fails, 4-3.
I would move to ratify the bills, less those being paid out of Fund 5, which is overextended by over $50,000.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to ratify the bills in the amount with the exception of what is owed in Fund 5 because it's in a negative fund balance. Any discussion? Tom?
So that is what we are paying all these bills. What is the, so what is the outcome of us approving or disapproving the bills if we're paying the bills?
I don't know, I can go ask Marion, she's here.
Well, just, yeah, I don't understand.
I think it's simply a matter of the bills, like you said, the bills have been paid,
Okay,
and the council rules are that you ratify the payment of the bills. If you want to suspend a certain amount of them until I can get you an audit answer, an accounting answer, and a legal answer, then that's fine. I don't think there's any repercussion to kind of tabling the ratification.
well, if we're paying our bill, that's my issue, is our paying our bills. I do have issues. I have issues with how we just keep going over and over and over.
Right.
We
Right.
lend a blind eye to this thing.
Right.
And
And that's what, I'm going to get you an answer in writing for the next meeting.
so if we don't ratify them, the bills are still paid. You're not gonna go back, we don't go back to the people and say, hey, we're taking the money back now because the council didn't ratify these things.
Right.
Okay, I just wanna make sure we're paying our bills. So I'm in favor of Kevin's motion.
So, any further discussion? Okay, call for a vote. All those in favor of, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passes.
And I'd like to say something. You know, I've had this question before. How is it that we pay the bills first and then ask permission later? And I'd like to know for certain that that is standard operating procedure for cities, because, again, you can't stop paying it because it's already been paid. Doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Well, I can check with the League of Oregon Cities. I don't know that every city has a ratification process, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
But I don't think most of them, there probably aren't any cities where the council pays the bills directly.
Eva, I'm sorry.
I just kind of want to go, the reason I posed. I think that there's a lot of things going on in the council and in the city right now. And I think we're being reactive rather than proactive. We've known that this has been, kind of going into debt further and further, and we haven't really been doing anything about it. So we're not being very proactive, we're being reactive. So I don't say that I disagree in the fact of, making sure that we're doing things right, but, we're all kind of all part of it too. We're all part of the reason there, so that's why I posed.
Okay. No further discussion. We will move on to
Library.
unfinished business. Item A, the approval of the IGA between the City of Cascade Locks and the Hood River Library District.
Okay, I'll do the staff report. this was brought back for changes that the council requested, and the new library director is here to answer any questions that you have. Essentially, on the first page of the IGA, we put in the dollar amount. In terms of rent, we put in the hours of operation. On the second page, we put in the assessed, just how much money the city is paying for library service in terms of the taxpayers, which was $28,503. We included a reference to the memorandum of understanding between the county and the city that was signed back in 2009, and they essentially have signed on to that memorandum. On page 3, we included mediation. I think that's pretty much the changes that you asked for to the IGA. And if you have any questions, the library director's here.
Tiffany?
The public comment first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Public comment, yeah.
Would anyone from the public care to speak on this item?
Leslie, why don't you lead off?
Leslie?
Hi. My name is Buzzy Nielsen. I'm the new director of the Hood River County Library District. I'm also a citizen of Cascade Locks. I'm here with Sarah Duckworth-Snyder and Mary Ethel Foley, who are both with the Library District Board. I am very happy because, as you can see in front of you, we have the hours for the transitional period for the Cascade Locks branch here, as well as the other two branches of the district. I'm also very happy to report that previously when we were talking to you, we thought we would only be able to have 10 hours for Parkdale and Cascade Locks during that transitional period before we receive tax revenue. But we're actually proposing 14 hours until we get our tax revenue, in which case we would be increasing those hours certainly to the 15 hours that are mentioned, that are referenced in the IGA. I do apologize, I do have a typo. We are not proposing to be open from 4:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. on Thursdays. But these hours were put here for a couple of reasons. One is they coincide with some of the Parks and Rec hours here in the center. And the other is that I wanted to make sure that there were daytime and weekend hours for the citizens of Cascade Locks. And I'm happy to answer any questions as with the report.
No questions? Don?
And would this be throughout the 12 months? Is it yearly?
These hours?
Uh-huh.
The hours would certainly be changing when we receive our tax revenue. I do know that in the past, the hours for summer were somewhat changed to coincide with Parks and Rec. What I'd like to do is ask the people who are using the library to see what hours would be best for them. So certainly they would be changing, but they certainly wouldn't be getting reduced.
They would be,
No.
you'd pay pretty much the same total hours.
Well, the hours would actually be increased once we receive our tax revenue.
Any further questions? Lance?
I just wanted to make a motion. Can I do that now, George?
Yeah, it doesn't look,
Public
unless,
comment's still open.
unless we're still waiting for
Public comment.
public comment.
Does anybody else?
Would anyone else from the public care to speak on this issue?
It's not.
Seeing none, we will go to comments. Yes, Lance?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the IGA between the City of Cascade Locks and the Hood River County Library District. Second.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agreement. We will now ask for
Kevin
this.
seconded it.
Kevin seconded it. We'll go to discussion. Tiffany?
Did we have the attorney look at this to decide whether the MOU or the ORS was the strongest language to include in that was part
No.
of, that was part of it too. That was part of the discussion that we had at the last meeting
What was
as
the other
well.
part?
Was to have the attorney look at it and see if the ORS language was stronger than the MOU language that we signed.
No, I didn't have the attorney look at it, I think because it refers to both. The ORS that's cited here is the succession language that I brought up earlier, so both the it's kind of belt and suspenders, but they're both in there.
And then also, are we when, are we gonna discuss whether or not we're going to accept the $1,600 in annual rent? Or- I mean, when would we discuss that, Kathy? Would we discuss that after we approve it and then tell them we don't want it, or?
I'd talk about it now,
Yeah.
because once you take the vote, they would be committed to it.
Are you done, Tiff?
Yeah.
Lance?
Well, as I said the last time, I don't think we should be charging them rent, if it means, increased hours for the community. And it sounded like it did, however, correct me if I'm wrong, someone, but it seemed like that was the proposal that the library district board made.
Kevin?
Pay rent.
I would like to see the rent language in the contract. Certainly, we can return it in exchange for additional hours. That way, it doesn't get lost in the shuffle at some later date that we're getting additional hours in exchange for providing the building rent-free.
Right.
So I would support leaving that language in there. And additionally, I would hate to have them come back for the fourth or fifth time, so I would like to get this finished.
So can we just amend it to say, oh, I'm sorry.
Tiffany?
So can we just amend it to say that, for the first year, we'll forego the rent? I don't know.
Kevin?
I would suggest that as an action of the council, we could return the rent to them in exchange for additional hours. I think that's why it's important that it actually stays in there.
Barry? Was that, or, no, Buzzy.
Buzzy.
Excuse me, I apologize. Do you know approximately, with $1,600, how many hours we would possibly get back?
I don't.
You don't?
It depends on who would be staffing it. I do know, that part of the reason for the figure 1,600 was to make the rent for Cascade Locks on par with the rent that we pay the Parkdale Community Center.
Oh, I see.
That was the reason for that number.
Make it consistent, yeah.
But I could certainly, see,
Check into that and get back to us.
Okay. If you could send a memo back, I'll distribute it at the next council meeting.
Okay. Any other discussion? Tom?
I just appreciate what the board has done here in putting this together. There were things we asked to get into it, they got into it, I appreciate that. And ongoing with this, I know that the board didn't get all the money, it had the tax that it wanted to have to bring it up to the level that it was prior to its closure. And just remind to continue to fight for Parkdale Cascade Locks when there's gonna be, somewhere down the road here, you can start getting some pressure on, we're paying a lot of taxes for this thing here, we want services, and you need to start cutting other people out to give us the services, so just be aware that that's probably gonna come down the road here, that we cut some services, people are gonna want those services, but, hang in there with Parkdale and Cascade Locks, because we need it to. And we're not, and I don't think we're asking a whole lot. But we appreciate all the things you've done here.
We really are committed to that. I've said that from the
I
beginning.
know that. I know that, but pressure,
Yes, I understand.
things change sometimes. Just hang in there.
Thank you, yes, we do appreciate it. I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the interagency or intergovernment agreement with the City of Cascade Locks and the Hood River Library District, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Lance, this question.
Pardon? Oh, yes.
Just make a motion that we suspend the rent for next year to the library district.
Can we wait and see what kind of numbers that are?
Well, if there's no second, it dies.
Okay. No second, so we will move on. Next is thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Next is the televised workshop session, staff report. Richard?
That's me. After our last meeting, well, after your last meeting, and we talked about the fire department, I spent some time thinking about it, and I came back with this proposal. When I'm not being an interim city administrator, I do essentially organizational audits at the city, county, state level of different kinds of organizations. One of the things that I think would be helpful would be to do an organizational study of the fire department to understand what the options are in terms of the operational options are, and also do a financial study to look at the best way to fund the fire department, the EMS. There was a study that was done, but I wasn't real impressed with it because it was really looking at levels of service. It wasn't really looking at the world of kind of possibilities in terms of how you could most efficiently and cost effectively, by efficiency I mean performance, cost effective for what you get for the money, to how to best to approach it. The company I work for brings in EMS, fire folks, and also, to do those kind of evaluations. In this case, if you were to feel this kind of a study, then the firm I have worked with wouldn't bid on it because it would be a conflict of interest. But I think it would be very productive, and the last part of the memo that I have in here is that once you've looked at the operational options and the financial options, would be to take those to a town hall of citizens so they could talk about it, to talk about, what they would like to see in terms of both organization and financing. So that's kind of the short of it. Do you have any questions of me before we go to public comment?
Yeah.
Tiffany?
You talk about an organizational study, how much would that cost?
The ones I've seen done would probably be around $7,000 to $10,000. Now, if that, I understand that financially that, that's is a further burden. I'd be glad to outline something in a way, put together an RFP to send out to get responses to see if, what the traffic is out there for this kind of study. Worst case, if you didn't go forward with it, then what I would suggest is that, take that RFP and have the new city administrator work with the fire services in the region to come up with those options.
And then the financial study, how much would that cost?
It would be one and the same.
They would both be the same, so they would
Right.
together cost
They would be
$10,000.
Yes, they would be together. I mean,
And
it's
then-
just that it's important to look at what are the organizational options and what is the implication in terms of costs and level of service, that kind of thing.
And then $1,500 for a town hall.
$750 was the last I heard for like a 3 to 4 hour town hall, because the person, actually, again, you could go out with it. The person I talked to had done a town hall for the port, and they seemed satisfied with it.
Okay.
Richard, how long do you anticipate an organizational study and a financial study? How long would that take once we secured a RFP?
Less than a month. They'd have to spend some time coming here to talk to the council, talk to staff in the EMS fund, talk to other citizens, and then do some research on, and to talk to other fire professionals in the region.
Don?
It seems like the biggest thing is how we would finance it. I mean,
Well,
that's the- it's not whether we want it, we'd like a helicopter, but we're having trouble financing what we've got today.
well, I think it's,
Biggest problem.
I think it's both, you know, to look at what are your organizational options? What would they cost? And then it's up to the council at the end of the day to decide, you know, what you can afford. And what, you know, what you get, you know, what level of service you're gonna get for, you know, what you invest. Thing is, in raising this, I don't want to prejudge it. In other words, I don't have anything preconceived in mind in terms of what the outcome would be. You know, some things may be cheaper, some things may be more expensive, but there may be some combination of things that would be best, you know, the best for everybody.
Tom?
Well, for me, I've been kicking it around for quite a while, and part of what I want to know is from the financing, because that's the biggest thing for us, it is providing something and providing it at a cost that's affordable to the community. And the problem with this thing, and which frustrates me, because we've got a lot of friction going on here. We've got people stepping up here saying we're gonna have a recall, and we're all ready to put money out there. I mean, there are people really wound up over this thing, which is irritating me, because I've got friends that I'm losing some friendships over this thing. But if that's the way it goes, that's the way it goes. The problem here is we've got emergency services that has a person who knows how to fight fires, has a person who knows how to be a paramedic, but has the head of it, and it's just not him. I'm asking for information for people, and I've been asking for it for as long as I've been on this council, and I'm getting misinformation from lots of people. The only clear information that frankly I count on, and I haven't been able to count on staff. I haven't been for 4 years. I haven't been able to count on staff because I'm constantly getting misinformation. I'm getting misinformation from folks coming on up here to the thing and putting out misinformation to not just to me but to the community on this whole thing. The biggest issue with this thing is not that whether we've got a person who knows how to fight fires, not whether we've got a person who knows how to be a paramedic, not whether we've got a person who can lead people. The problem is we got a person, and more broad than that, the staff, who cannot manage money. It's a money managing issue. And for me, it's either time to cut the link and said we got to go back to volunteerism, or frankly we should have it anyway. Because I'm sorry, you're in a small town, folks, and one person's not going to save you. A couple of people aren't going to save you. I don't care how much you pay them, and I don't care how much if you go out on a bond levy out here to pay this thing. We're talking about saving $125 a month or a year for insurance. Well, in order to pay for what we're looking here in this fire thing is, if you're $1,000, you're paying $150 a year. If it's $2 a thousand, because it sure isn't $1 a thousand. It's $2 a thousand, you're at $250. So we're all concerned about saving some insurance money. You're going to be paying big bucks to pay for the professional people that they're asking you to go after here, and the professional type of organization out here. In order for a community to do, it has to happen exactly the way Tom Jung talked about it. His dad and him went out there and knew how to take care of the fire. They took care of their fire. He had a fire extinguisher with him. He took care of the fire extinguisher. It's up to us to learn as much as we can through people like our chief in order to learn as a community to do a lot of things to take care of yourself. You cannot count on one person to do it all for you. We've got to step up to the plate a little bit for ourselves. You cannot afford what people in this community and frankly you cannot afford what the staff from our fire department wants you to pay to do this fire, to run this thing. And we've been running it in the hole. People keep telling me for 6 years we've been making money. And we ask the auditor, and the auditor says you're going in the hole every year. and the staff's telling me we're doing okay, and we talk about, what we're paying a person, we find out not all the numbers are put into that pay. We talk about adding a person, and we show a price for adding that person. It's a lot more than what they say that price is. We're getting bad numbers, and we've been getting bad numbers for 4 years. The issue here is finances, and the issue is we're letting somebody run the money into this thing that has no business running the money into it. Has every business running the emergency part of it, the training part of it, the coming out being a paramedic part of it, has every business in that, but has no business, and has proved it and proved it and proved it more than 1 year, over and over and over, that from the finance end of it, has no business doing it.
Tiffany?
And we're gonna continue to do this. And as far as I'm concerned, we're continuing down that road. And I'm not getting a lot of support from staff up here in trying to, through the administrative staff, over the 4 years of trying to curtail this thing. It's been never ending. And that's why you have to at least get a grip on the finances. It's not gonna happen with what we have in it from the finance end of it. That's the issue.
Tiffany?
It's not a matter of, and I'm sorry, it's not a matter of people picking on people or anything. It is a finance issue, bottom line. You are gonna, you can keep it going, and the money, the numbers, the per thousand is gonna go up, and it's gonna go up, and it's gonna go up. It's not gonna end for you.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, that's where I'm at.
I just wanted to remember that we were just doing questions to, I didn't want to stop Tom, but we were doing questions to Richard, and then we have to do.
Well, I
we
will
have-
throw my 2 bits in.
We have to do public comments, don't we?
Okay. Any further questions of Richard?
I'd like to, just in terms of what Tom said, I agree there's a lot of misinformation out there, and that's part of what I'm suggesting is to kind of cut through it with somebody who's a third-party professional that can talk about these kind of things. But yeah, everybody has an opinion, but I'm not too sure that it's always the best information, even for me.
But you can't change the numbers. The numbers are there. They're staring us right in the face, and they've been staring us in the face, and nobody has stepped up and done anything with those numbers. And frankly, until George went and asked the auditor for some real solid things.
Right.
Up to that point, we're doing great. Everything's doing great. Keep those budgets coming. We've passed them every time. We've passed a balanced budget every year. I've been there. We just stamped them right off. And every time, according to our auditor, we went way in the hole on a balanced budget. And we're still doing that. And now they're finally admitting it when there are no reserves left. We kept eating up reserves, and we were okay, because we had some money, we had some reserves. Now we have no reserves, we've gone in the hole. And now we're finally saying, well, maybe there's something wrong here. It has always been there.
Don?
I know someone in the audience said that they spoke to or had a letter from an agent in Stevenson. Well, I talked to an agent that I've been doing insurance, it happens to be with State Farm, and you're welcome to call them. Their story's completely different than ones. We're getting all kinds of stories. They say it's different. That's as far as State Farm. And I can give you the telephone number. So there's 2 different opinions. We're getting all kinds of opinions. State Farm will not raise the insurance in Cascade Locks.
Okay, is there any further questions? Order, please. Please, we've been good. No, order, please. Is there any further questions of Richard? Lance?
The main question is this a moot point in your opinion? I mean, I know that you wrote this staff report before the budget committee / the personnel section of the fire department on Friday. But if we're gonna cut what we're paying for personnel in half, and then have the corresponding cut to our revenue source, is there any point in studying the doing a financial study of a department that's just been slashed by a budget committee.
Yeah, I
I mean,
like
is there any point to studying the organization if the organization has completely disintegrated?
I don't think it's a moot point because budgets are ongoing. There's always a supplemental process. In reducing the salary, it was said that it would be up to the council to decide whether it was a half-time job or if it funded the first 6 months in which you could do this study, in less than that. So, no, I don't think it's a moot point.
So you'd want to,
Kevin?
you'd want to, can I just follow up, please?
Sorry, I didn't know you were.
Sorry. So you'd want to study a department that might be disappearing in 6 months? Is that what you're saying? In the hopes that we'd do a supplemental budget and backfill it?
No, I'm just saying, I think that you know, there's a lot of opportunities in terms of this process, and there is a lot of misinformation, and I think it's worth understanding what all of the options are, both organizationally, what the financial issues are, and if there's any options to that. I just think there's better information that would make a more informed decision.
Kevin?
So, as the city budget officer,
I'll change my hats.
Was any city support, financial support, cut to the fire fund? Did the city cut any money that it has given in the past to the fire hall fund?
You mean revenues?
In revenues?
Yeah.
We cut revenue, the budget committee cut revenue
I think,
from Fund 5?
I think the ambulance EMS funding was cut by $16,000.
It's a projection of revenue, that
Well,
was not,
it's
that was
okay.
not revenue
It's
from
a-
the general fund.
It's a projection.
So, my point is, the city gives about $80,000 a year to the fire hall to support emergency services, is that correct? I mean, $79,000 to $80,000?
I'd have to look at all the revenues. I mean, part of it is property taxes. There's monies from the general fund, yes. I don't know what the exact number is, and I don't know if it's gone up or down.
And has that money been slashed during the current budget process?
I couldn't tell you right now.
The answer's no.
Okay. I would say that the answer is no, that
They're still getting
the city
income.
is still giving the exact same amount of money to support the fire hall as we have for the past 4 years. The cuts that have been proposed, or slashes as characterized, are a result of the negative fund balance, which is $60,000, which has been caused by the department head. It's as simple as that. So, to characterize the budget committee as slashing payroll and destroying the fire hall, because they're being responsible and following city policy, is a mischaracterization.
Tom?
I agree. Again, that's what we're hearing. You just heard that that's the same thing I've been hearing for 4 years. Is here we're just talking about slashing this thing. And in reality, what happened there, we just came in with what honest numbers were. We looked at what they actually brought in at the end of the year last year, or the year before. When they're estimating, they were gonna make $160,000. What the budget started out with this year, you changed it, but it started out at 160 is what we're gonna make from all of those problems between fire and ambulance. But in reality, in the years that one was bringing in $80,000 or $90,000, and all we said is, don't sit here and budget that you can spend $160,000, because you've been going in the hole, in the hole, in the hole. You can budget what you've been making. So we slashed nothing. All we did is bring it back to what it realistically, and I think we're probably on the high side, on the realistic side of it.
Lance, do you have a question of Richard?
Yeah, you're talking about misinformation. Here's a great example. 3 days ago, in a budget committee, the same people that are telling you now we didn't slash the budget are voted to reduce the amount of money that the city has available to pay the fire chief position. Is that true? Did the budget committee vote to reduce the amount of money that will be available for the city to pay personnel in the fire department.
They reduced the salary to the fire chief.
They reduced the amount of money that's available to pay, is that correct? Through personnel, that's what you told me on Friday.
Okay.
If it's in personnel, that's what we can pay, am I wrong?
Yeah, I'm not sure I know how to characterize the answer, so.
Is there misinformation?
If we don't have any more questions of Richard, let's go to public comment.
About what, please? State what the public comment is
Oh,
going to be about, please.
I'm sorry. It's in reference to the discuss fire department organization options. So if you have an option, please stand up and give us your option, and so that we can make it a matter of record. So,
The first option, I think, that I'm sorry, Jeff Helfrich, Cascade Locks, already done that the interim city administrator with the audit has been done before. However, it would probably be wise to do that again. My only other comment from this was the mayor had asked and discussed, has received quite, because this is a volatile item, and respectful, everybody's been respectful, I've seen the audience and stuff like that. However, there was a council member who was just actually disrespectful and discussed personnel issues and criticized staff without an open public forum, and I believe that those comments themselves can open the council to liability and lawsuit for that. Councilmember Benson has repeatedly said that when we've gone down that road, and I've cautioned council to discuss personnel issues in open public without having first been vetted to those that they affect. Thank you.
Yeah, Mark Keller again. I'm all about numbers, hard numbers. That's how we decide whether to build a resort or not. With all the insurance comments that have been made, I can tell you that we would not build a resort without professional fire services here that would cost $30 million on that piece of land. So that's something that I would, and I love Cascade Locks. I'd love nothing better than to have a tax base here. I thought about approaching LLB, which has one office back east, to have a facility here in Cascade Locks. It would create great jobs. It would be a center where they would primarily ship product from here, but they would also have a store such as they have one other place in there. I love Cascade Locks and I'd do anything for it, but they won't come if you don't have professional fire. Secondly, this is a hard number. $49,600 is the difference in $2,007 if the state report is correct. You had $124,000 in these transient lodging taxes in 2007, which were split 70-30. General fund 70-30 for your tourism. So $49,600 is the current difference if you reverse that, which I believe you have for your general fund. Is that correct? Anyway, bottom line is $49,600 is the difference if you go 70-30. I can suggest a way that you can instantaneously, as soon as you can pass it, get $17,700 for your general fund or whatever you want to spend it for without taxing anybody in Cascade Locks, and just bringing it into line with your competition. And that is, when you go across the river to Stevenson, you pay 9% tax in every single one of those lodging facilities. Here you pay 8%. If you increase it by 1%, there isn't a single person driving from Portland or anywhere else that wouldn't stay here because of 1% increase, because it brings you in line with your competition. That's $17,700. And shake your head all you want, but I'm an expert, so.
how's it work from state to state?
That's your competition. It's 9% in the Econo Lodge and it's 9.3 actually in Skamania Lodge. You pay, so it's $100 for a room in Skamania Lodge or in the Roadway or any of the other bed and breakfasts in Skamania. You pay $9 in tax. Here, you pay $8 in tax because 1% goes to the state, 7% goes to you guys, regardless of how you split it up. $17,700 in 2007 was good pay for that study, and professionals would tell you what they would tell you about the consequences of the insurance, rather than it being speculation on the part of anybody in the audience or on the city council. I hate to see a town blow itself up. You get a black eye with people that will travel here. You certainly get a black eye with the business community. The Hospitality Development community is small. I know everybody in them. It's not something that we would do. When you see a city eating itself, we wouldn't develop here. Thank you.
You want to ask him a question? No? It's public comment.
Well, you stated the ORS previously. So-
Yes.
So any new or increased taxes is 70%
Correct.
to tourism, 30%.
That's
to-
correct.
So 1% is 1% increase is 30% of a 1% increase is $17,000.
$17,700 is one more percent of all the total collected monies based upon having 7% now and having 8% after
Okay,
that.
but only 30% of that would go to the general fund.
Only 30% of that would go to the general fund, but you can split the monies any way you want post-2003 as long as you provide 30% of those monies to tourism.
70% of any new or increased taxes
Correct.
has to.
Correct, that's the
Go-
1%.
Okay.
So 70% of that $17,700, which would be 12, or let's say 12 or 13, that would by definition go to tourism. But if you were anticipating raising the rates, the percentage on that other balance, that other 7% to tourism because you wanted to, you could offset it by that amount.
But we didn't change it and we
Okay.
can't. So that would be a benefit of $3,000? Because we can't, according to the ORS, lessen the amount.
To be clear, let's be utterly clear, as of July of 2003, it's my understanding since 1995, give or take, you've had the split of 70% of those monies going to the general fund and 30% going to tourism. Am I incorrect in hearing and reading on the blogs and so on, that's why I'm here, that people incorrectly thought that you had to spend more money on tourism than that?
Yeah.
No, I think the argument is overspending the 30% that's required by law on tourism. That's where the misunderstanding is.
Okay, so if the council's clear on that, then I don't have a point about the ORS, but I was under the impression that the understanding was that 70% had to be paid, or that you didn't have an option.
Oh, come on, Tom said that. Tom just said that.
Tom?
So,
Yeah.
the TRT, it
Yes.
started in the sixties, is that correct?
I don't know exactly when it started, but this law was passed in 2003.
Right.
You had 5% up until 1993, and you went to 7% in
Well-
terms of your local taxes. I don't know when it started.
Well, what I was trying to allude to is what, and I don't know totally about it, you seem to have the history of
Yeah.
the thing down a little bit.
Yeah.
But it seems that the TRT was started by basically the hotel industry. Is that?
Yeah, sure. I
And the
mean,
hotel industry started this tax, put a tax on themselves. I mean, or asked for them to go collect this tax in order to market tourism. They wanted to create more tourism, so they put a tax on themselves. And as I understand it, that tax was to go to them or to be used by communities. It went to the communities, and then the communities used that tax to help market more tourism, to put more people in the hotels.
That's-
But then what happened is that the community said, we need this for other things. And then everybody started breaking it off, and now it's to the point where in our case, we took 70% of it out and said, tourism, you don't get it. We're giving you 30%. But what did we do with the 70? We did the proper thing. 70% of our tax goes to the police. We pay that for, almost all of that, doesn't almost all of that go to police protection? I believe it goes into police protection on it. So if we're gonna start cutting into that for other emergency services, then we're gonna have to cut police. But
well, I
that's,
can't answer all your questions.
well,
Okay.
well, you know, we're
Yeah,
just-
can we get back to the discussion, please?
Actually, we need to continue on with public comment, so someone else may want to speak. Who's back there with their hand
still
up?
trying to get answers.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Jessie Hartley, and I just had a comment for Tom Cranlett. Hi.
No, wait.
Whoa, 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 whoa. You have to address all of us, the whole council.
Sorry, I'm new at this, I've never spoke before.
That's fine.
But, we've been here 7 years, me and my family, and 3 young children. And I've had to call for medical twice for the safety of my children. One was a fire, and my child had breathing problems, and then another was for my little toddler got into some gasoline and got it on himself, so I was very scared. My comment is that someone remarked that we need to learn how to take care of ourselves, start being reliant as individuals.
Okay, again, I'm gonna call
Point
for
of
a
order.
again.
And
Yeah.
the only
Because-
reason
Point of
is
order,
how-
Jesse.
We need,
Honest.
no, we need to have, we're having,
Point of order.
I'm just saying what happened was
Point.
I ran to
Stop. Point of order. If you're going to address the council, you have to address the council. We let you say a few things in the beginning, but you're supposed to try to give us suggestions or options for trying to keep the fire department.
that's what we're discussing.
Okay?
I reached out, I didn't know what to do, so I ran to a neighbor's house, they weren't there. I was having smoke throughout my house. I ran to my in-laws' house that was right next door. My husband was at work. I did not have a fire extinguisher. I did not know what to do, so I called 911. And I got a medical response person from our city to come and help. My response is, if we get rid of our fire department, it's going to be our medical response, and people are going to be liable, children and our growing age population.
Thank you.
Now that we've built up our fire department and we're professional, we're trained, we're ready to respond, now our city wants to do away with it. And we're going to have to pick up sometime in the future for the safety of our community. And I'm just saying, I'm not attacking the council, I'm just saying, if we could work with our fire department and have some type of assistance, not just do away with it all.
Do you have any suggestions?
Well, you know what, I'll have to think about that.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Does anyone from the general...
Cascade Lock.
Okay.
Several years ago, I got a bill from Farmers Insurance, and they made a mistake. They thought there was no fire department out here. And my bill read approximately $300 more per year. Multiply that out times 435.
Point of order.
That's what you're,
Point of order.
that's what you're
Do
talking
you have
about.
any suggestions
Yes.
for
yes.
options?
Maintain the
Please.
fire department so you don't have to pay extra money throughout the town. So you don't have to pay extra money to insure this building. Now, if you want a quick and dirty one, you're talking about taking the 70-30 split and reversing it and giving it to tourism. There's a better way to do that. Don't give it, don't change that. In fact, reverse it. Keep 90% of it and give 10% to tourism, and you'll have a whole bunch more money.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to comment, to give us an option?
Yeah, I'd like, Sarah Knight, Cascade Locks. I'd like the mayor's help and maybe the city administrator's help to try to put together a new initiative that would take away the initiative that we can't raise city fees or for services. And I would like to see a fee, and this would come out in the town hall meeting maybe, attached to our utility bill, $2 or $3 per month per bill to pay for the fire hall. I think that's what the previous city administrator had proposed, which caused the initiative, which there was a lot of misinformation, I think, about that too. So I think this is a time where we're all willing, it sounds like, to pay more to have those services, and I don't want to see this town divided. I don't want to see people fighting and friendships ended. That doesn't seem like Cascade Locks. This is a community that I think is willing to pay for that. So I would like help and assistance or guidance to how to get a new initiative on the ballot to repeal the one that we can't increase fees for services. And then I'd like us to pay for it. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to comment on possible options?
I'm Red Rank. First of all, I would say that this is about the discussion of the reorganization of the fire department. And I would think that one of the first things you would have wanted to ask, the members of the fire department, because you really need their buy-in on this. So in this reorganizational plan, perhaps they have some suggestions. Because if you cut our fire department chief by 50%, you have to look at yourself, is that a viable and a realistic expectation? Is anybody going to continue to work at 50% of their pay? And I would say 50% of what anybody would do that job for. So I know that the Budget Committee did not look at the financial impacts of removing the revenue of $70,000 to $100,000 a year when our fire chief / paramedic leaves. And in the outside chance that we could get somebody to take that position at the amount that you've allocated, what is the financial impact going to be to the city, not to speak of the services, while that vacancy exists? So I don't think the Budget Committee has done their job. As far as suggestions, the Budget Committee seemed all too willing to take $40,000 to $50,000 out of the general fund and put it into tourism. They could just as easily take some of that money out of the general fund, because obviously they must have found a way to do it. They're cutting personnel services, they're cutting insurance, they're cutting all kinds of ways to find room in that general fund so that they could take $40,000 to $50,000 out to put it into tourism. As Mark suggested, if we're going to build the city, if we're going to protect this city, we need to have good services. Also, in regard to the idea of having a study done, we had a study done several years ago, and yet previous councils, ours included, went 180 degrees in the reverse direction of what the proposals were on that professional report that we paid $6,000 for. There's no point in having additional studies done if we're not going to follow. Their suggestion was to add additional personnel to our fire department to bring up our revenue. So you could certainly plan to do that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Would anyone else from the public care to speak? Seeing none? Oh.
Jeff Richard, 80 Cascade. I guess to start off with, I have several suggestions. Going back to 2005, when I first got hired, I recommended to the council that they include stable funding for the fire department as as one of their goals, just like you see on the board over there, 2010, 2011 goals. Every year, councils usually come up with a list of goals, and as you can see, we don't have ours up yet. Usually we use those goals to help fund or figure out how we're going to go about planning our budget. 2005, 2006, and I believe 2007, we had stable funding on there as one of those council goals, and it had been removed. So yes, there has been information from staff on how we should go about properly funding emergency services. This is not new. This didn't just hit us all at once. This has been here for a long, long time. In terms of ideas, we could do a fire district. We could do a service district, which is similar to a fire district that the city oversees. So you would not add another layer of government. Those types of districts need to go out for a vote of the people. You could go out for a levy. Unfortunately, you can't go out for a bond because a bond can only be for capital items. Levies can be either 3 years or 5 years. So yes, we could go out to the public and ask for a levy. I've heard some really great suggestions this evening about the use of TRT monies and how we could potentially use those or maybe increase fees. But I think that the thing that everybody needs to understand is that we're working off of tax revenue that was established in 1970. Cost of doing business in 2011 is way up here, and we're still bringing in the same amount of money that's down here. And sure, you can say that property values have increased, but the rate of inflation between property value and the cost of doing business has gone exponential. And at some point, we have to look at saying, hey, it's gonna cost us a little more money. And that has been said. One of the proposals that we did put before council that did not get voted on was something called a public safety surcharge. This is not a new idea. This is an idea that actually came from the city of Jacksonville in Southern Oregon. And we proposed it based on what they were going through because they had the exact same problem we had here in Cascade Locks. Interestingly enough, one of the council members at a previous meeting tried to compare us to Moses Lake, Washington. And when I went back and did the investigation on, or some reading about Moses Lake, Washington, lo and behold, guess what? They have a public safety surcharge too. Thought that was really fascinating. So there are many things that we can do to try and supplement our funds for emergency services. But ultimately, it is going to cost the citizens more. We have not been on a sustainable course, and we have been telling this to the council for years. In addition to that, you run into financial situations when you cut hours to staff. There are projected budgets, but those budgets are based on the amount of calls that staff goes on. If you tell staff you can't go on calls, you don't bring in revenue. They kind of go hand in hand. And emergency services is never really about being self-sustaining. You know, you want the ambulance revenue to help impact in a positive way how the fund works. But fire departments in general do not rely on revenue like your water, your sewer, or anything else like that. So those are some suggestions, and you know, there were some discussions about, you know, us being self-reliant and stuff like that. There's a council member here who banged on my door at 11 o'clock at night asking for help when I was off duty. So I'm all about being self-reliant, but I think, you know, you can't call a pot a black, or you can't call a pot, forget it. You know what I mean, I'm all tongue-tied. The point is, we all want to help each other out. The problem is we can't do it the way some people want and other people want. I am all for a town hall meeting, because we need to hear from the community as to what they want. And I said this last year. I said, let's hear from the citizens. They tell us what kind of services they want. We come back and tell them how much it's going to cost, and then we decide what we're going to pay for and what we're not going to pay for. But that hasn't happened. That has been completely disregarded. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Martha Lamont, Cascade Locks. My whole involvement in this started with a woman in her 70s pulling out a fight. Her suggestion was, let's get out there and save, have our safety first, not flowers, not tourism, not sailors, not anything except safety first. She suggested that the women working in the museum cut down to one employee, and the others would be happy to be volunteers. It might be $5,000 or $6,000, but she said that's the way she's run her whole life. You start somewhere, you take a little from this and a little from that. And I think it's time to listen to the city. I think we need a town hall meeting. We need it soon. Otherwise, this town is going to be torn. She's willing to help. I think we're all willing to help.
Would anyone else from the public care to speak?
I'm Ralph Esgard. I was mayor here for 40 years. 5 years I was on the council. Prior to that, I was on the budget committee, several other committees. And what I'm seeing here is a disaster. I didn't want to come and talk, but I just want to let you people know that this is a disaster. I was the one who helped hire the fire chief. We have 2 candidates. And out of the 2 candidates, he was the one who won. And we had it out there for 2 months. Getting an administrator. We went through 8 people to get an administrator before he got the county quit. We had another one that came. He went around and talked to a few people in town and he left. Then we got Willoughby. Best thing ever happened to this town. And he in turn hired Jeff. It's sad the way you people are treating him. You don't even go out and talk to him at the fire hall. Sad.
Order. Is there anyone else from the public care to speak?
Hi, I'm Joanne Wittenberg, and I also say that we need a town hall meeting. And you know, Rich, people have studies and you know, you can study a town to death and the study gets filed away in a drawer and nobody even looks at it. So my proposal, and I've talked to George about this, I really urge the city council to have a town hall meeting and bring everything to the table and have a copy of that study for everybody's purview, but particularly you as the new city council people. I know Tiffany and Tom, you've probably seen it before, maybe you have also, Lance, and maybe you too, Kevin, have seen the old study, but bring that up again, and maybe you just need to tweak it and get the economic part of it to get that part, and so you don't have to pay for a whole new study that you already have. The other thing I'd like to see at a town hall meeting is, again, to talk about a fire district. We talked about that at once and it got voted down, but put that on the agenda. Put other surcharges on the agenda. My uncle is an 89-year-old man that lives in a small town of 300, and when we were up there in May, I looked at his utility bill. He pays $168 a month for water, garbage, and sewer. And two of those charges, he has a surcharge. For water and sewer, he has a surcharge, and this is in Washington. So why not, if it's possible to do that here, why not do that too? Let's look at it and see if it's possible, or what it would cost people. Because people are adamant about fire safety, and I think all those questions need to be at a town hall and have somebody facilitate it that's a neutral person and have all the ideas out there.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I actually have a suggestion.
Go ahead.
Several ideas have been floated, and there's what they call a fire authority, which is down in Southern Oregon, that they combine resources. It's a force multiplier is what they refer to it as. And it's the easiest way to explain it is it's the engagement before the marriage. It's where you would look at two fire stations or fire districts would engage themselves into one fire authority, whereas all the money, the only money that's ever counted against the tax revenues is what they already put into the pot of money. And that money then is distributed out between the two districts or the two stations. And so you would have an elected board that would represent the fire district or fire authority, as they call it. And then that money is dispersed. And so you could work a plan where if one of your one of your paid employees was out on vacation or out on another call, you would bring an officer down, a paid officer, to go to provide coverage and service for the area that would be needed, say if Chief Pritchard is out on a call or on vacation. So it's a way to look at force multiplication and looking at combining resources and assets together. And if that does not work, that separation is a lot easier. It's not like getting a divorce. The city of Cascade Locks would keep its own property. It's the fire hall and all its assets, referring to the ambulance and the fire department, or the fire truck or engines. And Hood River would do the same thing. I know that item's been kind of discussed, but I think it should be explored further, because I think that is a way to help bridge these tough economic times, and yet we're still able to maintain a level of service that we the citizens expect and demand. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to speak?
One more quick one, if I may.
Okay, one, and then we got to call in because we got to continue with the rest of our agenda.
Okay, this suggestion has been brought up before, but I think it's noteworthy. In lieu of franchise fee increase. It was proposed before, as some people call it, and I think George has talked about it recently, is the tax for using the city streets. Now, which we charge our utilities. Its percentage right now, it's at 5%. That could be increased by anywhere from 0.2% to 0.5%. That would bring in revenue. And unlike utilities like PGE, who also pay a franchise fee, which is very common, cities always charge a franchise fee to utilities. The only difference is our utility is our own. And the other difference is the franchise fee for PGE and other things like that, their franchise fee is a line item on their bill. But because we're a municipal utility, we don't have that requirement that we necessarily have to pass the franchise fee on to our customers. Our public utility has absorbed electric rates. We're now looking at our third electrical rate increase, which we have not passed along to the consumer. We're looking at, I believe in October, at a possible 12% rate increase from the BPA, which I believe Tracy has said they believe that they have the revenue in order to be able to absorb that and not pass that along to the customer. This 0.5% is inconsequential as far as you look at the overall electric utility budget. It's well within our ability to be able to absorb that. Our electric utility is stronger than it has been in years as far as having capital reserves. Our problem with our department is not so much that we don't have revenues coming in, it's that we don't have proper reserves so that when services are expended and resources are used, we don't have any reserve to keep us from going into the hole. Even though may start at the beginning of the budget year with a negative balance, those revenues are continuing to come in. So technically, he's not over his budget. He just simply doesn't have sufficient revenues in order to bridge that gap between the time that he expends resources and he receives revenues. But we've been saying for years, we need to increase our revenues. We need to increase our stable funding to the fire department. This is one way that it could be done. And regardless of what some people say, the attorney's looked at it. The attorney has said it's legal. It's standard among cities all over the place.
Thank you, Brett.
It could be done. Thank you.
Okay. With that, we're going to end public comment. We will now go to council action.
No, we don't take action in workshop.
Oh, that's true.
We need to decide
So,
what we want to do.
Tiffany?
I think we need to find out if we have money for these studies, and because we definitely can't, if we can't afford it, then I don't know what we can do about it.
Any other discussion? Lance?
I believe the citizens have asked us for a town hall meeting. I like the idea of having a discussion in the community about what kinds of services the community expects, and coming back to report what that's going to cost, and then prioritize those decisions based on the costs. I think what we're hearing here is people are asking to be engaged by their government. And it's a simple thing to hold a meeting. And I think we should do that.
Is there any other discussion? Eva?
I have a couple of things. Actually, one, I have to pee so bad. So bad.
I'm closer to the door than you are.
Somebody can move to have a break.
Well, I'd like to do it after we have this discussion.
Okay.
and then we can-
Well, let's hurry.
Two, and I think this is the place for me to do it. I've been writing notes as I went along here as part of the discussion. It says, you know, Tom had mentioned one person can't save people. And that's true, one person can't save people. But one person can make sure that a group of people can save you. So that they're organized, they're safe, trained, that we're licensed, that we're ready, that we're able to communicate with other groups of people. If you have a small group of volunteers in order to work together, you have to work with other volunteers, and that takes training to do that. So, so one person can make a big impact. We talked about money a little bit ago, and there was some responsibility. It's a lot of responsibility on an individual or a small group of people to know exactly how to fix this. And I've been here for a long time, and I hear the problem over and over and over again. So to blame an individual or a group of people just isn't, it's not productive that we're doing that. And so we talk about experts. I've seen that over the years too. Experts, in some ways, find your weaknesses. And then it's like you spend, $7,000 to $10,000, and then you have studies, like we had one that was $6,000, we haven't really got anywhere. This is really a community thing. So here's another thing, because I'm not very political really. This is what I see. I see a lot of people talking about recalls. I see a lot of people pissed off. I see a lot of people sitting on their side of the fence and not working together at all. And so it really, really upsets me because I'm in the community and I see it happening and we're not taking care of the issue. So here's my opinion. My opinion is that we obviously know that the fire and EMS is really important to the people of the community. That's obvious. I understand that. So what I'm hoping is that we can get rid of that issue here and try to buy us some time so that we can all try to get together on the same side of the fence. If we go to the town hall meeting and everybody sits on their side of the fence and they're all ticked off and they're all bashing each other, we've accomplished nothing. So if we're asking, I am absolutely 150% for that, but somewhere along the way something needs to happen in order for us to be productive. If we're not, then we're just going to be sitting here and the recalls are going to happen and people are going to be upset and maybe we'll have a fire chief that goes and there's all these things. So I don't know what the answer is, but there's a whole room full of people here. We better figure it out.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything they'd like to add? Tom?
I would stick to it as a financial issue, and that's, and if we're gonna come in and we don't come in with bogus numbers, we come in with, if we're gonna have a town hall meeting, we come in with real numbers on things, because that's the only reason we're here. The only reason we're here is there has become a financial issue. It had nothing to do with how we fought fires, had nothing to do with how we cared for people. It had everything to do with, can we afford, can we finance this thing? And it has been going down and down and down over the years. And we still, I'm still hearing that we want to look the other way on that. Now, and I've again said it before, if you want to prove me not wrong on the numbers, then prove me wrong. But I'll tell you what, a lot of the numbers I've been hearing are not good numbers, and I think they can be proved wrong. So if we're going to have a town hall, I want to, we're talking about, a level of service thing in here. I think we're heading right. The chief obviously is working with volunteers, but I think they were pushed that way though, because there was a lot of push to keep paying for more professional people, and there was a big push to get more volunteers. They've stepped it up on that one. They're doing a great job with it, and when I'm saying everybody has to have it, I agree that I don't believe one person can do it, but I do believe that one person heading in the right direction, doing the right things, can make a big impact. And I think that is being done on a lot of levels. But I think we are still in a hurt here from the financial end of it, and we need to be able to get a grip on that. We just can't. The citizens are not going to want to give you more money if it doesn't look like you're using their money properly. I think they will give you the money if it looks like you're doing the right things, because that's what's coming down to. Every suggestion, almost every suggestion in here is going to be a financial suggestion. We're going to tax you more, or we're going to go after this grant, or we're going to go after that. It's all going to be a financial issue. If the citizens believe that you're doing the right thing with their money, then you're not gonna have a problem with it. But right now, we've got to the point where we're heading in this deep hole, and we haven't seen, there hasn't been anything to slow it down. Nothing's been slowing it down. We need to slow it down, we need to stop it, because you won't have a fire department here if you keep going where we're going, you won't have that. And you do need it, and you do need all this stuff. And you are not gonna have it if you think you can go out and say, you're not gonna have it if you think you can go out and say, you can tax yourself out of it. You're not gonna have it if you think you just keep adding money to it. You have gotta show that it is being ran, the city's run properly, all that is run properly. And that one, out of all of them, is having the biggest problem financially. And I believe that it's more than the fact that it's not getting funds. I mean, you look at fire districts, same thing, they put a dollar amount on per thousand. So basically, our city right now, even without a fire district, is giving our fire hall over $1,000. We're giving them almost half our taxes. We're at $270. We're giving them over $1,000 right now. There's a lot of fire districts out there that run on just over $1,000. There's gaps, a couple of dollars a thousand to, but we're already giving these from our tax base. We're already giving them over $1,000 to that. Plus, they get to have whatever ambulance revenues they make and the contract with Multnomah County. But even with all of that, we're heading in the hole. I want numbers. I just want plain old numbers or we're not gonna make it anyway.
Okay, I want to make a statement because, for me, I just became the mayor, okay? I read the rules, I took the oath. When I took the oath, just like every other council member who took the oath was that we were to abide by state laws, that we are to abide by all ordinances, all resolutions, and abide by the city policy and the city charter, okay? It's our obligation to not put blinders on when we know that we have financial debt within the city. We have to, by our oath that we took, we have to be responsible for the citizens of Cascade Locks. We have to recognize that we've had debts. We had a $450,000 fire department loan that hadn't been paid on yet. We're working on that, okay? That's a real issue. It's not something we're trying to hide, okay? There's other debts all along the way that we've been dealing with, each one of these debts, and they're all incurring money that has to be taken out of the general fund to have to pay for these things. This is not an easy thing for any of us. You might think that we're totally on the other side of the fence. The point is, I feel like I am legally obligated to do what the laws say and what the ordinances say. And there's ordinances that state that we have enacted that are current today that we are supposed to run a balanced budget, okay? We're supposed to run departments in a positive cash flow, okay? We're supposed to do that. So I have to look at all this thing in a legal aspect and say, I'm looking at it legally, this is what we have to do, this is what we're doing. And we're trying to do the best with what we have, okay? That's all I have to say. Lance.
Okay, talking about legal obligation, and I applaud you for that. I think we have a moral obligation as a council to provide safety protection to this community. I think that's what we're hearing. So there's legal obligations and there's also moral obligations. And one of the frustrating things to me is every budget committee meeting we go to, it seems like we're scooping another hole into the budget. We've got to fix that budget. You cannot run a fire department on a half-time salary. You're going to lose revenue, okay? We've got people on this council right here, a majority, who voted to cut personnel salary expense. When you do that, you are going to cut revenue. When you cut revenue, you're not going to have money on the expenditure side. And so we're digging a deeper hole by the actions of the budget committee. I think that's something we have to look at. And we're meeting again tomorrow night. And they won't allow talk at the budget committee, but we've got to fix that budget if we're going to save this department. All of this talking about different options and stuff, to me, is out the window if we are just going to cut personnel and look at the corresponding effect on revenue. It's going to collapse on itself. We have a moral obligation to stop that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Tom?
I would agree. We frankly have had a moral obligation for more than 4 years here. And it's interesting that one side has a moral, this group has a moral obligation this way, and this group has a moral obligation that way. We've been using our moral obligation to run this thing totally in the hole for 4 years, looking the other way financially. We should have at least said, we're gonna hold the line here. If we have a moral obligation to keep it going, we said we're gonna hold the line here on this thing. And we've got ourselves a chief that knows how to fight fires. We have a chief that knows how to do paramedics. And what the money was in there was able to fund his salary, and it still can fund his salary. But you cannot get all the extra things. We've got a fire hall, we got a good fire truck, we got an ambulance, we got the cardiac, we've got those things. But you cannot keep, you've got a moral obligation there too. It goes both ways.
Yes,
You can't run it in a hole morally either, because you're gonna lose it anyway.
I
Yes.
absolutely agree that there needs to be a fix. But I'm coming on here as a new council person, and I'm sitting here and I just see walls all over the place. I understand that we are having a money problem, but it didn't get there overnight. And it's not gonna be gone overnight. This council's gonna come in and save it. I think that there's a balance between being legal and being moral, okay, if we wanna put it in those words. There's a balance there, and it's obvious that the community is speaking. So if the community wasn't speaking, I wouldn't be paying as much attention, but I am. They are, and I am. And the thing is that we have a chief and a council, and we have a temporary administrator. And we have a breakdown. We don't have very much transparency, just even with those three parties. I'm not saying just frivolously throw money out. I'm saying do it and be wise about it. Be proactive about it rather than just simply go, okay, well, we passed the budget and we're done. There are lots of things that can happen. We can make the difference as far as picking a good city administrator. We can make a difference in making sure that we open up the line of communications without throwing mud at each other. And trying to make it, not trying, there's no try. You either do or you don't do. So getting everybody together and sitting there and fixing it. If the chief, okay, there's a lot of things, we don't have to go into personnel stuff here. It's working together, setting up expectations for everybody involved, and then finding the fix to it. But we can't just do it overnight. And it's gonna have to take hard work.
I'd entertain a motion. Is there any motions on the floor?
Can't do motions in workshop.
Huh? Oh, we can't do motions in workshop. I'm sorry.
I would suggest a 10-minute break. By consensus.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
10-minute break. Thank you. We should direct Richard to check into setting up a town hall meeting, finding out what the cost of the town hall meeting will be, and also finding out what the cost is to put something on the ballot or an initiative, whatever it might be. Anyone else have anything else they would like to add to that? Don?
I would like to, there's a few costs that I haven't got clear in my head, I'd like to get those settled before the town hall meeting.
Well, that's gonna be, we still have to discuss all that.
I would like that done. Hasn't been done yet.
Okay. Call for a consensus vote. Is everybody in agreement with that? Say aye. Aye.
You got two things there, you're talking about town hall meeting and the cost of putting something on the ballot, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
So both of those things together is what
Together,
what we're
yeah.
voting on, rather than separate.
yeah. So,
Not a vote, just a yes or no.
call for a vote. All those in favor?
It's
Or
not a vote.
Consensus.
consensus
Has to
or
be a consensus on that.
consensus, I'm sorry.
I
All those in-
agree.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm in favor of the town hall meeting, as I said before.
Eva?
I'm in favor of yes, both.
Tiffany?
Yes.
Don?
As long as we have all the facts together. to
We're
have the town
not
hall
doing
meeting.
anything,
Okay.
we're just finding out about it right now.
Okay. I myself, so you're
Okay.
hereby directed to do that, Richard.
All right.
So we'll close out of this, and we will now go to new business. Do you have a staff report,
Yeah,
Richard?
the staff report is to buy an air compressor or not buy an air compressor.
Okay.
Tracy's here, he and Dave Griffin have recommended this.
they've been after this for years, haven't they?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I think everyone except for maybe Eva and Dawn, I guess, have heard the staff report on this on a couple different occasions. I would make a motion to approve the expenditure unless they wanted to go through a more in-depth investigation.
I'll second it.
You okay? So I would move to approve the expenditure not to exceed $8,000.
I'll second
It's
it.
been moved by Kevin Benson and seconded by Tiffany to approve the purchase of an air compressor for an amount not to exceed. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Next is approved resolution number 1212, authorizing an interfund loan from the electric portion of the capital reserve fund to emergency services capital reserve fund of $450,000 with a repayment timeline of 10 years, paying $14,789.29 in accumulation of unpaid interest from November 2008, repealing resolution number 1153. Is there any discussion? Tiffany?
Can we have something in here that states what will happen if the fire hall sells, that the money would go toward the repayment of this loan? I don't want to leave it out there. I want it to be pretty clearly stated so that the next council or whatever, if the sale doesn't happen before we're out of office, that it clearly states where that money's going to go from the sale of that fire hall.
Sure.
Kevin?
Would the sale of any city property be an appropriate clause? So if we get rid of the fire truck or the little building back there, or
Anything, oh, excuse me.
Well, I was gonna say for the fire truck, that it would go toward the fire truck loan. I mean, I was gonna make the same request on the next one. So,
But since we're speaking to this resolution, which what you're talking about is a much broader one in terms of all sales, but this one is just what you would do with this money. And that's what you were saying, basically, this loan, this money gets repaid from the fire
and
station.
actually, the little trailer too should be reflected in it.
Kevin?
well, the city has taken this on as a capital improvement where it's not a debt specific to the fire hall, it's a city debt. So, I think if we excess property or whatever, that instead of that property being divvied up or whatever, that it should go to take care of this outstanding debt. I mean, that's just my opinion.
I agree with that, personally.
Isn't that what resolution 1153 had? Some form or another?
Well, it used to say something like that in it, yeah, but the numbers have all changed, so I have to make a complete new resolution. So we could just add that wording.
The sale of any city property?
Sale of any city property, that it goes to reduce the capital debt. Kevin?
I mean, is that so restrictive that it would cause a problem?
Not that I
Or
know
so
of.
broad as to cause a problem, either way, I guess.
No.
Well, I'm just trying to think, any city property,
What all city property do we have for sale? I mean,
I don't know, I mean, if we're talking surplus sale,
Yeah,
whatever
well, I
we
mean,
make from there. I mean, any property sale,
Well, where would that money go normally if we had excess?
I don't know.
Excuse me, wouldn't it, like, say, Tracy's thinking about getting a new line truck, if he sells the old one, that should go back into his fund, shouldn't it?
Well, that's his fund.
We're saying that we're gonna get it too.
Yeah,
If it's anything.
Yeah, that's what,
Well,
okay.
His
So
property's restricted, though.
Any property that would go into the general fund, okay, does that make it, where the revenues would be general fund revenues? Any sales where the revenues would be general fund revenues?
That would make it better.
But then the water department.
well, can't we just, sorry, George.
Pardon? Go ahead, Tiffany.
So
I'm
can we
sorry.
just state, in the event that the fire hall, the trailer behind the fire hall or the fire truck sells, it be applied to against this loan?
I'm fine.
Well, let me just ask, because I'm not really sure, but if the city were going to sell something major, maybe not even major, doesn't that come to the council for their number one approval?
Yeah.
And at that time, could you not say, I'm not saying don't put that on here, but for other things, couldn't you then at that time say where you would want it to go?
Yeah, but I think that just for those three items, the fire truck, the old fire truck,
Trailer?
the trailer, and the fire hall property, that it be applied toward this loan.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just put that in there on the repayment of the interfund loan section?
Don?
Why don't you just state anything associated with the fire department? If it's sold, goes to repay that. The generator, the fire truck,
What
the
about the
firehouse, whatever, sold.
It's kind of like unintended consequences. I don't know what all that is. I know where the fire station is, the modular and the fire truck, they're very specific items. But I mean, if they decommission some property and so, I don't know what the laws are. You know, there may be,
Maybe so.
it's like, well, I'll give you an example of the fire truck. I mean, this fire truck by law cannot be sold to another fire department.
Right.
So I don't know all the intricacies of budget law to tell you if that would be a good move or not. Where at least with these three, I feel pretty comfortable that I know what they are.
So do you wanna make your motion at that?
Is there a motion on the floor?
I saw it. Oh, no, I guess not. Okay, sorry.
So you
Okay,
can
so I'll
Yeah.
make a motion to approve resolution 1212, authorizing the interfund loan from the electric portion of the capital reserve fund to the emergency services capital reserve fund of $450,000 with a repayment timeline of 10 years, paying $14,789.29 in an accumulated unpaid interest from November 2008, and repealing resolution 1153, but adding to section 2 in the event that, does that fire truck have a number?
I don't know.
Okay. In the event that the old fire truck, old fire hall, or modular building, when sold, is applied toward this loan.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to revise Resolution 1212 and add the wording to Section B that the firehouse, the modular, or the old fire truck be, when sold, will be applied to this loan. Discussion, Lance?
Mr. Carson, what's the expense to, general fund to pay this back in 10 years on a annual basis?
On an annual
Yeah, I looked
basis?
at your, yeah, your.
Well, the
your schedule,
amortization schedule's in here, so it's $3,873.24 times 12.
So 46,475.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my discussion would be, that's a big hit to take, right at the end of budget season. So to me, it would seem like, there would be a way to balance that out and maybe not pay so much the first couple of years and plan on paying more the last couple of years, because there's an expectation that you're gonna sell an asset and not have to pay those last couple of years. Since everyone seems to think that we have a budget crisis, why not give ourselves a break by doing that?
Tiffany?
I'm gonna say that we've had an expectation of selling that fire hall for 3 years. It hasn't happened.
Or 10 years.
Well, I think we just need to reject the loan as it is.
You're out of order, please.
Did we skip public comment on this one?
Not yet.
Yeah,
Because didn't we make a motion
yeah, we did make a
before
motion.
public comment?
Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that.
All right.
Should we go back to public comment, or just
Yeah,
skip it all together?
I don't know. Hang on just a second.
Yeah.
I'll ask. Brad, did you have something you wanted to say on public comment?
Well, yeah, I would say the primary plan for paying off this loan has always been to sell the asset. In the last 8 months, I haven't seen a single thing happen. It's not listed. You don't have a listing on it, you don't have a sign on it, you haven't made any active motion towards paying off that asset. That has always been the plan to get this debt down. So you're making this loan as if you have no intention of working to sell that property. So, as Lance said, if you sell the small part of the property, that's gonna bring in about $125,000. That alone would bring down that payment considerably. If you sell the entire property, you're saying you can get, who knows? But if you sell all of the property together, that's gonna bring your loan payment down considerably. So why is it that you're figuring out something on a long term as if you have no plans of selling that asset? So I would say,
Thank you.
maybe you should work a little harder on selling the asset, and as Lance said, give yourself a break for a year or so, make your payment lower, and actually work on selling that asset and see if there isn't some ground that can be made on that.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak on this matter? Okay, we'll go to council comment. Tiffany?
I would say that we are not issuing a loan. The loan has already been issued. We are just, what all this is doing is issuing a way to repay it.
So, do we have to re-ask again for the motion? No?
I don't think so.
Don't
Is there a
think so?
second?
Okay. It's been moved and seconded by Don Haight.
Okay.
This time we'll call for a vote.
Well, I just wanted to ask a question.
Well, we already had council comment. What's the question?
Okay, so, Mr. Carson, if this resolution passes, is there, the possibility that we can adjust the yearly payments in the first couple of years, let's say the first 3 years, to a lower amount, or does this, in your opinion, does this resolution lock us in to $46,475 a year? I mean, is it possible we can adjust that, or are we just buying in, all in on the
You could
the
take,
schedule that you created.
you could pay, you'd essentially buy it down, and if you wanted to, you could readjust the balance over the same term, a different term. I mean, you got all kinds of options. You're not locked into, once you buy it down, let's say it.
Can you explain what you mean by buy it down?
If basically the debt is $450,000. If we sold the fire hall, let's say for $300,000, that would mean there would be a balance of $150,000, and how you paid that off, it then becomes up to you. You could restructure it, $150,000 over 5 years, 10 years, with or without interest. I mean, there's all kinds of things you could do, but it would go towards the total debt.
So what I'm suggesting though is not necessarily buying it down, but rather, instead of taking the same hit this year, as we do every year, since this is kind of late in the budget season, is it possible, to offset the requirement this year and next year and following year, give ourselves another 3-year window to try to actively sell the property, and then plan on paying higher payments in years 8, 9, and 10 if it doesn't sell at that point? Is that possible given the structure of this resolution in your opinion? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think basically if you sold the property and the money went to pay this loan, then how you structured the loan after that is completely up to the council.
But I'm not talking about if we sold the property, I'm talking about for these first 3 years, not making this $46,000 payment in hopes that we might sell it. Or make it, let's say, a $26,000 payment each year for the first 3 years.
Well, 10 years is the maximum you can do by law, and.
But you can pay more in years 8, 9, and 10 and still reach the same amount.
I suppose, I don't know. In terms of what you're allowed to do in terms of structuring this loan, I'm not ready to give you an answer right yet. I don't know.
I'd like to call for the question, please. We've already made the motion, and we've already put this off for 3 years. I think we need to make a vote on it.
Tom, you got something real quick?
I think same thing too. We have 10 years out there, and just what we're talking about here is the same thing that's got us, got the country in a recession, is a lot of loans where we had a big balloon payment at the end of it, and when the balloon payment came, we didn't have the money to pay it.
Okay.
I think it's appropriate to, in 10 years, break it down and start.
Tiffany called for a vote, so.
No more questions.
When you call the question, you have to have a vote immediately.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right. Continue discussion.
Nobody.
It's not a vote on the motion, it's a vote on whether or not to call the question. So our rule of order.
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
On the call for the question, I vote yes.
I vote yes.
Tom?
No.
It passed.
Tiffany?
No.
Don?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So now you have to go right to a vote on the
Now I
motion.
call for a vote on the motion. Okay?
Yes.
All those in favor,
Aye.
say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Opposed?
Motion passes.
I'd like to say why I voted no.
Go ahead.
Throughout this budget process, we've been digging a deeper hole into our budget. This is part of that hole, and we had a suggestion to lessen the impact of that deficit in our budget. Unfortunately, we voted to keep the hole big. So I oppose it because I don't think we should increase the deficit in our budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Tiffany? Eva? Sorry.
I agree with that. I concur with that.
Okay, thank you. So, next we will go to approval.
Point of order, it's 10 o'clock.
Make a motion to continue till 10:30.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to continue the meeting until 10:30. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, motion passes. We go on to 10:30. Okay. Approve resolution number 1213, authorizing an interfund loan from the water portion of the Capital Reserve Fund to Emergency Services Fire Truck Loan in the Capital Reserve in the amount of $24,280 with a repayment timeline of 10 years. paying $309.86 in accumulated unpaid interest from June 2009 through June 2011, repealing resolution number 1179. Is there, 1175, excuse me. Is there a staff report, Richard?
Nope.
Okay,
Public comment?
that's where I was going next. Public comment, would anyone from the public care to comment on this issue? Seeing none, we will go on to council action.
I would move to adopt resolution number 1213.
Second.
It's been moved by Kevin Benson and seconded by Tiffany to approve resolution 1213. Is there any discussion? Lance?
Here's another opportunity to lessen the impact on the budget.
Call for the question.
By not increasing the amount that we have to pay on this loan. I think we can do that. We don't have to pay it out this way.
Question's been called for. Don?
Public comment?
Huh?
We need public comment.
No, we already
We
did.
did.
We already did.
Oh, okay, good.
Don? Vote on the question.
Yes.
Yes.
Tiffany?
Yes.
Tom? Lance? Eva? Myself is yes. Okay. All those in favor of approving resolution 1213, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passes. Okay, we will go on now to approval of resolution number 1214, establishing rates for the delivery of electrical services provided by the City of Cascade Locks, establishing where monies are transferred, and repealing ordinance number 1073. Does anyone from the public, or excuse me, staff report?
There's a short staff report in here. The recommendation is to change the public streetlight portion of Resolution 1073 to read that all monies gathered from Resolution 1157 be transferred to the light fund to pay for public street lighting.
Okay. At this point, is there any public comment? Seeing none, we will go to council action. Kevin?
I would move to adopt ordinance number 413.
Skip one.
I'm sorry. That's all right, 1214. To adopt resolution number 1214.
Second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve resolution 1214. Comment?
Yeah, I said, a couple of things. The resolution we're adopting shows that there's an increase, and I think that's related to the previous resolution. There's not a 10% increase associated with this new resolution, is there?
I don't know. Tracy?
No.
No.
Okay.
Apparently not.
Under, it says as of March 20,
Okay.
2006, and then 10% increase. I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't,
Now, if, I hope I put the whole one in there, but I was asked to leave basically that whole resolution, all the bottom part as it was, so none of that changed.
I just want to follow up. Will there be a line item in the budget for the revenues and the expenses associated with streetlights so that they can track that within the electrical department? The actual cost and the actual revenue associated with it?
Is that a problem?
There would not be one. All the resolution says is to transfer all monies that are brought in from 1157 into streets would go there. So it would, the line item would be under revenues for streets. It's gonna be different than it is now, because what it is now is based on per month, not per money brought in by 1157.
But what I'm asking for is for there to be a line item in the electrical budget that demonstrates the money coming in
There would be,
18,000, okay.
there would be.
And then also a line item that shows the expense of operating the streetlights, so that there is some way of judging how much the electrical department is spending to run the streetlights and how much revenue the electrical department has coming in to support the streetlights. So it doesn't just get lost into the fund. It seems like an appropriate accounting.
Yeah, I would think we could, at a line item level, we could do that. Yeah.
Okay. I would like to see that. I don't know whether it has to be part of this resolution or not, but it certainly seems like good accounting practice.
Tiffany?
Okay, which resolution are we've got a redo, we've got in
The
two,
top one is the one that,
1214?
well, there's two 1214s.
I think they're exact, no, they look like
No,
they're
one
exactly
of
the
them
same.
one of them says, Cascade Locks Resolution number 911 is hereby repealed, and the other one says, resolution number 1073 is hereby repealed. So, which one are we voting on, Kathy?
What page is that?
The very last one, very last page. Of both of them.
Oh, okay, the first one says, not 10-7, on page 9 of 9, the first one says, Resolution 1073 is repealed. The second set, at the same
Yes.
place, says Resolution number 911 is repealed.
So I'm assuming that this one that says 1073 is the one we're voting on. And yeah, and it becomes effective June 13th.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I don't know what,
I would go with that one. I don't know what the second one is.
and then what's the one?
okay,
All right.
thank you.
Okay.
Lance?
Just to make sure, everybody understands this, Tracy, where's the money being collected? How does that money get paid that we're talking about, is referred to as monies?
Money gets paid, out of 1157 goes into the street department. This
So I mean, is that people that get their utility bill?
They get their utility bill and everybody pays a streetlight safety fee. And, it is so much per money, or so much per month for each customer, be it residential or commercial, different rates for each one. That money goes into the street department, to pay for public street lighting. And this resolution will transfer that money after it goes to street to City Light to pay for those street lights, and only that money, nothing extra, like they are being charged now for street.
So, then, I guess my question is, if, let's say a bunch more streetlights are added, costs more to keep the streetlights going, let's say it's more than it costs you to, or your department for the electricity, does this address that?
It doesn't address that, but I've thought about that, and, I've been here for 26 years, and there's been 3 or 4, except for the big subdivisions, and I don't see any big subdivisions coming in the next, 5 to 10 years. So I don't think we're gonna add a bunch of streetlights. I think we're pretty set on how they're gonna be. If it comes up and we have an issue with that, I think it could be readdressed at that time. That's my opinion.
So as new streetlights get added, you'd have to look at this and what the impact would be.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further comment, call for a vote. All those in favor of, where was I here?
1214.
D.
1214. All those in favor of approving resolution 1214, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. We will now go to Approval of ordinance number 413, providing for transient room assessment for the city of Cascade Locks, providing administrative procedures for collecting the same established violations and penalties, therefore repealing ordinance number 320. Is there a staff report?
Yeah, basically, I was asked to look into this. The city exempts single-family kind of vacation rentals from being taxed. The state law does not, it includes them. And so what we've done is change the city requirements to include them in the TRT. Now, in the process of looking at some of the other cities, we found some other things that we thought would improve the ordinance. So what you've got in here is, that's the basic one that we changed, but we changed a few other things.
Okay. At this time, is there any public comment?
Could that be considered a new tax? Because previously, single-family dwellings were not taxed. In my mind, that's a new tax, and our tax initiative that was passed a few years ago would mean you're in violation of that initiative. Have you done legal research on that?
No,
Okay.
not on that
Probably
question.
Jeff.
Not on that question.
Is there any further questions? Oh, you have a comment?
Again, this is another one of those issues that there's really not enough information for the public to even have an informed opinion, because what's the impact of the city of trying to identify those single-family residents, collect that tax, penalize it if they're not? I'm not sure what the impact would be to current staff to add that burden of collecting an additional TRT tax.
I think it's small enough town that everybody knows who is renting out vacation rentals. I think it's just, at this point, a matter of just sending them a letter telling them if they're subject to the TRT tax and if they have to pay it. I don't know about, I mean, enforcement. Well, it's not, that's a good question, but I mean, we're not creating a new tax. We're not increasing the tax. We're just adding some people who have to pay it, so, yeah.
And is that defined as like less than 30 days?
Well, so that's a new tax, because if it's new
Yeah.
people, I would say the lawyers should review that.
Kevin?
I don't know, on the new tax thing. It certainly wasn't a new tax when we passed the in lieu of franchise fee thing after the initiative was in place. And it was kind of the same deal. Well, we've been paying it for decades, so it's not a new thing. It's just this little extra thing that we're just actually putting on the books now. The truth is, I could really care less whether individual homes are taxed like this or not, but if it's gonna be a transient room tax and transients are renting individual homes, then they should be subject to it.
Eva?
I was just kinda wondering if we can't just wait until, kinda table this for a while until we get some more pressing things taken care of. You know, as far as, I mean, then we can have legal look at it when we actually have money for legal to look at it, et cetera, et cetera.
Tiffany?
I think this wasn't posted for a week, so we are not going to be able to pass it tonight. We can accept the first reading. What do we do? Have the
I
first,
make a motion to adopt.
and I'll second it, and then you can answer any legal questions before then.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 413 as the first reading. Is there any comment? Seeing none, we'll call for,
No vote. We have
No
to wait
vote.
till the next meeting.
Yeah,
So-
actually, I believe Mr. Carson would do the first reading at this point
Read the title.
by title only.
Okay.
It says for in full with 1 week requirement not met.
Okay, an ordinance number 413, an ordinance providing for a transient room assessment for the city of Cascade Locks, providing administrative procedures for a collection of same, establishing violations and penalties therefore, and repealing ordinance number 320.
Okay? So, is that the end of that? then?
That's the end of that.
Okay.
Could I say something?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit behind the motion here, but, I would prefer that this be done, as maybe a more thorough examination of TRT. We've had a suggestion by industry experts tonight that we look at increasing our TRT by 1%, as a way of generating revenue. And so, to me, I mean, I think that's a great suggestion, since everyone seems to think we have a budget crisis. So why not look at the whole thing rather than just one little piece of it? It's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Mhm.
Sure.
Okay. Next, we will go to approve employee rate of participation of health service benefits. Do you have a staff report on that, Richard?
Yeah, as part of the budget process, one of the things that we came across was that the city can increase the employees' share of healthcare by right now they're paying 5%. You can do it, increase it by 2.5% for 2 years for a total of 10 years. And that's really linked back to the contract that we have, the union contract that we have. So that's an option for the council.
That's for a total of 10%, not 10 years.
It's,
That's what, you said 10 years.
okay, for a total of 10%, but you can only do it 2.5% per year. So you could increase it for the next fiscal year by 2.5%. Which would make it 7.5%.
Okay. Hang on, it's public comment. Be next. Public comment?
This is real, Sarah Knight, Cascade Locks. This is really the issue I came here for tonight, because it's really demoralizing to, at this time, when city staff has been filling in spots for vacancies and whatever, to ask them to pay more of their health care insurance at the same time that you're proposing budgets to reducing their salary without a market study report. You know, again, there's gotta be a lot more information before you make decisions that not only impacts staff now, but the ability to attract and maintain future staff. Somebody that's worked for wages for 40 years, it's doesn't seem like a lot, but to ask people to pay more for their health insurance is sending a message that they're not valued, if you ask me. So that's just my input.
Would anyone else from the public care to speak? Seeing none, we'll go to council. Okay. Discussion, Kevin?
Rich, how much is the premium's gonna go up for the city this year?
I don't know right off the top of my head how much it is.
Okay.
You don't?
No, no.
So this proposal is
I know that
is
we
a
know
product
what it
of-
is. Sorry.
The proposed change is a product of direction from,
The budget committee has discussed it and wanted to bring it to council.
okay. So this 2.5% increase, what would that cost the average employee in the city?
I don't know what the number would be.
Lance?
Just went through negotiations with my union. The fact of the matter is, an increase in the employee contribution to healthcare expense is a pay cut. It is a pay cut. So this is a 2.5% pay cut for our city staff. And this comes on top of a budget committee decision to slash the personnel funds by 10%. So that's a 12.5% salary cut. And I don't approve of it.
Kevin?
Not to quibble, but the 2.5% is 2.5% of the cost of the healthcare, not of their wages. It's not a 2.5% wage cut, unless their health insurance is equal to their wages.
Okay, comment on the 10%.
Okay. Richard?
The 10% wasn't I don't think it is yet a direct salary impact. They said to reduce the amount of money being charged to personal services, material and services by 10% in Department 21. That doesn't say that those shifts, that those cuts, 10% can't shift back to the general fund if the general fund can afford it.
Can the general fund afford it?
Well, we're working on that.
You know the answer to that.
No, we're working on that right now.
Okay.
I'll be back at it tomorrow morning, because I have to get it ready for tomorrow night.
Okay. Kevin?
I agree that there should be, I agree with Sarah actually, that there should be, this is part of compensation. And to pull this out separately and do this, I don't think is appropriate. I think we need to have some idea of competition, what pay is in the area. I mean, it seems like an easy thing just to say, well, let's do this, but I disagree with that. I think we have to look at total compensation, and this is part of compensation. I don't disagree with that. I think there has to be some justification or direct interest in doing this for us.
Don?
Eva, can I ask you, you're in this business, what's happening in your budget business, what in your health thing?
Well, a couple things that happen, because we have some people that are union, we have some people that are not union. And the cost goes, when the insurance increases above a certain amount, we can reopen negotiations. And so it opens back up, and then a group of the employees gets together with Human Resources, and they all decide where things are gonna go, and they look at them, they look at that first. So they're checking their plans, they're seeing how they compare, they're looking at the facts. So I would agree with Kevin, the facts have gotta be there. And then they look at how much the county is, with the unions. The union has a certain cap that they pay. And then they say, okay, well, non-union, well, at the point in time, I think they pay like 5% less than the union people do, and union personnel. And then the unions have done some stuff where they're working with their COLAs and that kind of stuff to make the amounts less.
Has your personal insurance gone up, do you think?
Our personal insurance went up by 6.95%. I think that was about right. A little bit less than 7%. They first proposed like 16%, but they always come back with less.
It's a mess, it's hard.
Eva?
The impression I got is that I don't think that the city staff, the personnel, is opposed to like rolling ideas around and stuff, but there's no facts. We need to have facts. In other words, this is a perfect opportunity where they've kind of, like saying, hey, well, we can help a little here, with their idea, on some of the stuff, and I'm like, God, I just hate that. I want facts. We owe it to have our facts and to investigate the best we can to get them the best that we can afford to get them.
Don?
Yeah, I think I would like to know what is the total savings if we did this before is it worth, are we saving enough to make it worthwhile?
Right. Well, I agree that we should know what the amount of increase of the insurance is going to be, and that we should know the facts, and go from there. Tiffany?
I'm looking here at the budget book, and the difference is going to be $4,394 more that the employees will have to pay. So that's the difference. It's $4,400.
Okay. Lance?
Make a motion to table item F.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to table the motion. We'll call for a vote if there's no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. We will now go to authorize ICA Carson to review applications for city administrator, choose finalists, set date for council interviews and town hall.
Okay, in the back of your packet is a revised schedule. We closed on Friday. We received 24 applications from all around the country. And some of them look pretty good. The schedule, I mean, basically, I was going to review them and pick the ones that I thought were most qualified in terms of experience, education, et cetera, and forward that to the council, where we could, given that some of these people there are some here, but a lot of them aren't, then you could set up an interview with the council, maybe by telephone, maybe even Skype, if we can get it to work. And I was talking about doing that around June 24th. Kevin's ready.
No, it's public comment first.
I have
Is
a
there?
question for Mr. Carson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Question.
Do you have an idea of the 24, how many you're going to move on to the next phase? I mean,
I just went through the first evaluation of them today. About half of them look pretty good, maybe 8, 9.
so
Of
it's
the group?
not, you don't have a set number that you want to use, you just, ones you feel
I'm
are acceptable, period, or?
just still evaluating, looking through it. I'm trying to set up a kind of a score sheet that I can assign scores to in case anybody asks me how they did, or, public asks, anything like that, so.
Well, I was just looking for some criteria of them moving on to making it through the first phase into the second phase. Is there going to be a set criteria? Is it gonna be 12, or is it gonna be you have to score this high, or?
It's gonna be a score,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, if you wanna tell me that you want me to score them and you have a number in mind, that's fine too. I mean, if you wanna, first round, do 10 or 7 or whatever, I mean, then once you did the interviews, you could decide who went on to the next step, which would be kind of a community meeting, a meet and greet kind of thing, and narrow that down. Then normally when you get to that point, you narrow it down to 3 or 4. But how many you want to interview is really up to you. But right now I'm looking at 9 or 10 of them that look pretty good. I mean, in terms of having actual city administrator experience, most of them have MPAs. Those are 2 things I look for. Oh, and if they've been a previous member of the International City County Managers Association, or still are all things that I'm interested in.
Eva?
Yeah, I like your idea of having an objective scoring, and then however many make it through, have a percentage or something, and then have that be your first step.
Yeah, and in terms of where the cut line is, if there's so many people you want to interview, that's perfectly fine too, as long as I create a record of the scoring. Anybody can look at it, and if you say you want to do 7 or 8 or 9, well, that's what you want to do. So it's also a matter of your time too, because we're going to have to, settle this up, and you know, that's another question, is who do you want to interview? You want the full council, you want a subcommittee of the council?
Okay. No more comment? Anybody from the public care to comment? No? Okay. On to council action.
Point of order, it's 10:30, I'll make a motion to continue for 15 more minutes.
It's been moved and seconded to continue the meeting for additional 15 minutes. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passes. We'll continue for 15 minutes. So,
I would move to authorize Mr. Carson to review applications for city administrator, choose finalists, and set dates for council interviews and town hall.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to authorize Mr. Carson to review the applications for city administrator, choose finalists, set dates for council interviews and town hall. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. To the next page. Okay, next on the agenda, authorize ICA Carson to publish 2 requests for proposals for SDC analysis and engineering consultant.
These are both RFPs I'd like to go out with. One is to take a look at our current SDC levels, and if they're adequate, if we need to charge more. The other is for an engineer consultant. We don't really have an engineer consultant. We have a contractor we have been doing some work with, but we need a formal, just like we have with the attorneys, we need a formal process to hire somebody on.
Any discussion?
What's the purpose? Yeah.
Oh, public comment?
I wanna
I'm
ask-
sorry.
I want to ask Rich a question first. What's the purpose of having an engineer consultant for SDC?
Well,
For-
Well, the engineer consultant, I mean, basically, they provide several services. One is, we use them as a resource for any changes to the infrastructure in terms of the water system, the sewer system, that kind of thing. So they're, they basically are kind of on call to the public works superintendent. The other part is they do all of our development review. So when a project comes through, they review the project's proposal against the city's development standards, as opposed to what a planner might do in terms of a process for a conditional use permit or a rezone. So they provide us both services, both for our infrastructure, maintaining and running, improving our existing infrastructure, and for doing development review of projects, like the housing authority project, like the ports building expansion project.
Don?
This would be just to negotiate an hourly fee with somebody and have them,
Right.
when used, we pay, if we don't use it,
Right,
we don't pay.
we'll put the RFP out and
It's not a,
ask for qualifications and rates, costs, and then select somebody.
we just pay as needed and when needed.
On the development side, it's pretty much a pass-through. I mean, the developer pays for the review. On the other side, in terms of the cities, it would have to be money that came out of City Light, the Water, Street, Sewer Fund. They would have a line item that says contract services engineer, and we would set aside whatever monies that each of the funds thought they would need next year. And that's already in there.
I move that we authorize that.
Hold it, I gotta do public comment first.
One question.
Go ahead.
So I'm assuming then if they determine that the SDC should be increased, that this also is one of those things that will go to the people because of the tax initiative?
Yes.
Has to be
So I
voted
can
on.
vote for it.
Has to be voted on.
Yeah.
Okay, just check.
Has to be voted on. Okay. Anyone else from the public? No. Okay, council action? Don?
I move that we authorize the city administrator to go out on the RFPs and and get prices on both the SDC analyst and the engineering consultant on a as-needed contract price.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize Mr. Carson to publish 2 requests for proposals for SDC analysis and engineering consultant. Any comment? Seeing none, I will go to ask for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Next is decide on selection of committee and set dates to conduct interviews for city attorney services.
Everybody, there's a list in here of all the people who responded to the RFP. All of you have a sheet that we gave you to rank the different proposals. You all got copies of the proposals, so I need the sheets back from you so I can compile them and bring it back to you in the staff report telling you how they ranked. And at that point, you could make a decision in that meeting on who you want and why. Anyway, so in other words, I can bring this back to you for the meeting of June 27th. Let you know who you picked, or how you ranked them at least.
Okay?
Yeah, when do you need them by? When do you want them by? We need to give you a date.
Now? I know you got yours.
Mine's at home, it's done.
Okay, yeah, tomorrow.
Okay. Tiffany?
Well,
Do public comment first, real quick.
Well, I just asked a question about that.
I already had public comment.
Yeah, he did.
It's over.
Oh, okay, sorry. So, I mean, you should probably ask if everybody can do it by tomorrow. I mean, I'm done with mine, but I don't work, so.
Well, I can't get it to you tomorrow because the city isn't open, there's hours in town, so, I mean, I could run it across the street to the county,
We got budget time tomorrow night.
bring it there.
Yeah.
I'll try to bring mine tomorrow night.
Hmm?
I'll try to bring mine tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Okay, so, is there any action we're going to take with this?
Are we going to do this at the next meeting, or do we want to have a special meeting to get this done?
Well, that's up to you. What I'd say is I'll take the rankings, I'll write up a staff report, make a recommendation, and then you can, at the meeting of the 27th, you can decide who you want to hire.
Are we
Well,
gonna-
Unless you want to do more than that.
Are we going to do interviews?
Do they want to have a
Well, that's the question. What do you want to do?
I don't particularly want to interview it. I've read all the reports, or all the,
Well, that's the
I
decision.
think my ranking would, I mean, each one of us can rank, and then they can evaluate it from that, and then the next meeting, we can vote on the top 3, or vote on however we want to do it.
That's a decision you could make on the 27th. That basically, I'll give you the staff report, show you the rankings. If you're not comfortable with making a decision, then you could go to interviews.
Couple,
Yeah,
if it's that close.
yeah, exactly.
I agree. I think that's good. Good idea.
Okay?
Second,
So,
need a vote?
I don't know if we need a vote for that, do we?
It's a consensus.
Just a consensus, everybody
I agree.
agrees?
I agree.
Yeah? Dennis? Tom?
So we're just to decide in 2 weeks
Yeah.
about whether we're not gonna do, whether or not we're gonna have interviews.
Or if you want to just hire somebody.
One rises to the top above all others. It
Right,
seems like
so you get the option
we
of
might
going
forego that.
going either direction.
Right.
I would prefer to do interviews regardless.
Okay. Tiffany?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Myself, yes? You bet. I think I asked everybody, so,
Yeah.
all right.
Now you're going around for double votes.
I guess. Okay, so, Mayor and councilor comments, is there any comments? Tiffany?
I just have a couple. I would, at the next meeting, like to vote on suspending resolution 1066 which is the resolution that has to do with this strategic plan for the fire department, being that there is financial issues with the fire department, and that it's been 6 years since this has been put in place, and I did talk to Fire Chief Pritchard, and he thought that it would be a good idea to review it and redo it. So I just would like to see that on the next agenda. I have a consensus of the council.
Okay, I'll take a consensus vote. Eva?
Yeah.
Lance?
I can't say one or another, I haven't looked at it.
Okay. Tom?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Tiffany?
Yes,
Don?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay, motion passes?
consensus.
Consensus passes, I'm sorry.
And then the other thing that I've been looking into because of a citizen is that I'm not sure that we have any ordinances in place that state that we have set for a fire department, because when we merged with the city of Hood River many years ago, we repealed all of our ordinances and resolutions that had to do with establishing a fire department. And I think we need to look into that matter and see if we have any resolutions that establish our fire department and EMS department. And if we don't, we need to get them in place. Of course, again, with the consensus of the council.
Okay. Call for a consensus vote. Eva? Lance?
So the question is, look at our ordinances and resolutions and find if there's one creating the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy, I guess that's fallen to you, because this is a recorder. Is that, you got a full plate right now, is that, you not plenty of time to do that? What, can you give me some feedback
It
on
would
that?
take some time, I don't have time to just spend on that, but it would take some time.
I'd put that as a lower priority then.
So, yes, no?
Are you asking for it to be immediate
No,
before the
I'm
next
asking
meeting?
for
or
it to
what are
be
you
looked
asking?
into to see if we
At
have,
some point in the indefinite future?
well, I'd like it to get started when time is available.
When time is available, I'll agree.
As soon as
Okay.
possible.
Tom?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Yes.
Tiffany?
Yes.
Don? Myself, yes. Motion passes?
Consensus.
Okay. Or consensus. I apologize. Was there any other comments from Eva?
Just really briefly, we have a lot of people who come up here and do comments and stuff, and they really are experienced people, out here in the crowd. And then we have some experience over here. I felt really bad about Jessie Hartley because she didn't really know the rules. She kind of came in, it's really highly charged, and I just wanted to say that I felt bad because she came in here kind of to pour her heart out, and we kind of smushed her, and then we put her on the spot about having an idea when that's, she didn't have an idea. She was just trying to put her thought out, and I felt that she was embarrassed. So I just want her to know that that wasn't our intent, and it was nobody's intent to embarrass her. It just happened in the moment, and I hope we can do better next time, and that she'll still have a good feeling about it, about coming here and talking.
I agree with you. It wasn't my intent to embarrass her. I was just trying to keep her on track. So, Lance?
Memorial Day weekend in Cascade Locks, great weekend, sailing event, took my daughter down there, great chance to see the competition. We had an artist open studio here, people all lined in the streets waiting to see the molds be poured, and again, got to take my daughter to that, so it was really neat to see, people come to Cascade Locks for our little artist enclave. Looked like Sullinger Motel was booked the whole weekend. Seemed like KOA filled, maybe even a few new cabins that were up there, and just really it looked like a good kickoff to our tourist season. So I appreciated seeing that.
Any other council comments, Tom?
Point of order. Point of order.
No. Time?
Time.
5 more minutes.
Just a couple minutes here.
Can I just,
5 more. 10 minutes.
5?
Absolutely, 10 minutes, no more. Make a
Is
motion.
there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to extend the meeting 10 more minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes. Go, Don.
I would just like
Or
to-
go, sorry, go ahead.
I'd just like to publicly thank Mr. Choi. He spent the best part of Sunday helping us get some cleanup on the beach and everything. Just want to publicly thank him.
Tom?
And follow through on the college collegiate national championships. Brought lots of TNT money that they filled up the motel rooms. They spent money everywhere. It was a great event for us. And actually still in the spring a little bit, bringing probably the biggest thing that's going to happen for bringing the money in one event. So yeah, excellent thing for our town. I want to thank Guida Haight for down in our park. She's been down there putting her own time in to beautify. If you go down the park and look around the park down there, it really pops out at you. And a lot of that pop has been created by Guida, volunteering her own time, and I think maybe put some bushes, some plants in there herself too. But thank you, Guida. I think the park really looks nice, thanks to you. And the Sacagawea and Seeing the Dog down there. If you haven't gone down and seen that, you got to see it. And even if you don't go down and see it, lots of people are seeing it. This thing is really an attraction down there. And it's a real interactive attraction. Kids get on the dog. People pose with her. Lots of pictures being taken every day. Lots of people go on there, and what a great addition. What a great piece of art in our community. I mean, talk about world class. It's a world class, and and people recognize it. I mean, they're flat coming down there and checking that thing out. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, get down to the park and check that out.
Tiffany?
Okay. I just wanted to say that we're falling behind on the 4th of July thing. I don't know if anybody's checked out Corbett's 4th of July party, but this is their 40th anniversary, and it is huge. They've got lots of stuff going on. I don't know. We need to catch up with them. We should let them, I know, we should let them get ahead of us.
Okay. With that, again, I would like to address everyone in the public that the meeting tonight was, we're just trying to go through things. It's a difficult time for everybody. And just keep that in mind, that we're all trying to do the right thing. And it takes a little bit of time to get the right information. And I believe with the right information that people will know exactly what we're doing and why it's being done. And we're doing it to represent the people. So with that, we'll go to staff notes. Do you have any staff notes?
The only one I had was, there's a list in here of new responsibilities for ordinance enforcement. In other words, kind of things that we did in the past and who's responsible for it now. And I ran it by the sheriff's office before I tried to commit them to anything, and they were fine, so.
They're gonna come down on noise calls.
I put them down for that, and they said, yeah.
And they said yes.
Yeah.
It's actually a county ordinance.
Well,
They're
It's a
supposed to
city
enforce.
ordinance.
No, the noise is a county ordinance.
There's a city noise ordinance.
yeah, there's both. But yeah, they said they would respond to it. Now, whether they will or not, that's a story, but that's what they told me.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it?
On that, Public Works, do they have the time to answer those calls? Do you have them listed for us?
Which ones?
Well, any of them that he listed for, I guess. It just seemed like we were overbooked, understaffed. and then added more.
Yeah, no, yeah. They're- They will as best as they can, let me put it that way. Well, it depends on what the nuisance is. I mean, you know, when people have this assumption that, you know, if you got tall grass, it's, you know, that there's something illegal about it, and that's not the case. You know, we don't do blackberries. Blackberries are not a fire issue, and that's the only time we respond is grass over 10 inches between May 15th and July 3rd. I mean, you know, it's what people think is a code enforcement issue is usually a neighbor-to-neighbor issue.
Kevin?
Personally, I would rather stay with the current policy, which is that the city administrator is responsible for the ordinance enforcement. And that doesn't mean that he doesn't delegate it to someone to do, but I think the responsibility has to stay with the city administrator. There has to be one person that's responsible for making sure that the ordinances are enforced and followed. Because I sure would hate to be put in a situation where I have to go to or would be expected to go to the public works guy and say, well, how come this hasn't been taken care of?
No, that hasn't changed. I'm just, you know, in terms of who it would be delegated to, that's what the list is. It would come to me first.
Okay, so actually, I really don't, it doesn't really matter to me who the administrator delegates it to, as long as he remains responsible for it.
And I put this in here as more advisory in case somebody goes, what are you talking about? You know.
Okay.
No surprises.
And that reminds me, at the last meeting, a citizen approached me during the meeting and registered a complaint that was made a year ago about grass. And I couldn't find where they had actually registered or what had happened. We got it taken care of, it was taken care of in 3 days. But even if we have an enforcement officer, they don't always get done. That doesn't.
There is a form, I mean, if they have a complaint, a legitimate complaint, then there's a form they fill out. And, you know, if there's something we can do about it, we will. But like I said, it's...
Lance?
So, previously, the ordinance enforcement officer spent a lot of time on the garbage. There's an ordinance that requires you to carry, to have garbage service.
Mm-hmm.
And that was done by getting a list of all the people who signed up with it over garbage, because they have a franchise to collect garbage here.
Mm-hmm.
Is someone going to be going through that list? It's either monthly or quarterly, I can't remember which. But is someone going to be doing, someone from Public Works going to be going through that list, mailing out notices, knocking on doors, or are we just letting that ordinance go?
We're gonna end up shifting to a more reactive as opposed to proactive ordinance. In other words, it's enforcement. If they bring it to, a citizen brings a complaint to us, then we'll look into it. We're not gonna be going around looking for stuff. The biggest, you know, the number one was fire permits, was the ordinance enforcement, you know, and it's actually a fire department issue. It's not or fire marshal issue, if you want to look at it that way, not an ordinance and enforcement issue. But, you know, it'll be more reactive. As people complain, we'll look into it.
Okay. With that, we'll go to item B, determine task for City Services Committee. I'll table that until the next, our next meeting.
Second.
It's been moved to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Meeting adjourned. If you want to stay, go ahead.
Bring any cards? Play cards with you.
Just gonna go. I can go home and grab a cribbage board. You know how to play cribbage? You don't?